The word Elysium emerges from the mists of archaic Greek like a whisper of divine promise, its etymology shrouded in the same mystery that would come to define the realm itself. Scholars trace its linguistic roots to the pre-Greek substrate language that existed in the Aegean before the arrival of the Indo-European speaking peoples who would become the classical Greeks. The evolution of the term reveals fascinating layers of meaning that accumulated like sediment over centuries of oral tradition. Some linguists propose a connection to the verb alio, meaning to be restless or to wander, which would create an intriguing paradox, a realm named for wandering that represents the ultimate cessation of earthly troubles. Others suggest links to elytron, relating to purification and cleansing, which aligns more closely with the later conception of Elysium as a place of spiritual renewal. The linguistic uncertainty surrounding the word's origins mirrors the theological ambiguity that would plague Greek thinkers for generations as they struggled to define exactly what this blessed realm represented within their cosmological framework. Homer's treatment of Elysium in the Odyssey marks the first detailed literary examination of this concept, though his presentation raises more questions than it answers. When the sea god Proteus speaks to Menelaus in Book 4, he delivers a prophecy that fundamentally challenges the established understanding of death and afterlife in early Greek thought. Proteus declares that Menelaus will not die in horse pasturing Argos, but instead will be transported by the immortals to the Elysian plain at the ends of the earth, where Rhadamanthus rules and where life flows most easily for mortals. The specific details Homer provides create a vivid picture of this otherworldly realm. He describes a place where no snow falls, where violent storms never rage, and where rain remains unknown. Instead, the realm experiences only the gentle, life-giving breath of the west wind, which ocean sends to refresh its inhabitants. The climate represents perfect moderation, neither the scorching heat that withers crops nor the bitter cold that brings suffering, but an eternal spring where the very air carries rejuvenation. This meteorological perfection serves as more than mere comfort. It represents the complete absence of the natural hardships that define mortal existence. Homer's choice to place Rhadamanthus as the ruler of this realm proves particularly significant. Rhadamanthus, son of Zeus and Europa, possessed a reputation for absolute justice during his mortal life as king of Crete. His presence in Elysium establishes the realm not merely as a place of physical comfort, but as a domain where perfect justice prevails. Unlike the arbitrary nature of divine favour often displayed by the Olympian gods, Rhadamanthus represents consistent, unwavering moral authority. His rule suggests that Elysium operates according to principles of merit and righteousness, rather than simple divine whim. The geographical placement of Elysium at the ends of the earth creates immediate tension with the established cosmological order. Traditional Greek understanding positioned Hades as the inevitable destination for all mortal souls, regardless of their deeds in life. The dead crossed the River Styx, paid Charon the ferryman, and entered a shadowy realm where they existed as pale reflections of their former selves. This system made no allowances for moral distinction. Heroes and villains alike descended into the same grey existence beneath the earth. Elysium's location at the world's edge, beyond the reach of normal geography, suggests something fundamentally different from this underworld destination. The phrase ends of the earth in Greek cosmology typically referred to the boundaries where the terrestrial world met the divine realm of ocean, the great river that encircled all lands. This placement indicates that Elysium exists in a liminal space, neither fully earthly nor completely divine, but occupying a unique position between the mortal and immortal realms. The theological implications of this alternative afterlife destination prove revolutionary for Greek religious thought. Proteus explicitly states that Menelaus will reach Elysium not through death in the conventional sense, but through divine translation. The gods will carry him there while he still lives, bypassing entirely the normal process of dying and descending to Hades. This represents a fundamental departure from the universal nature of death as understood in early Greek culture. The criteria for this exceptional fate, as Homer presents it, appear to rest not on moral achievement but on divine relationship. Proteus explains that Menelaus qualifies for this destiny because he is the husband of Helen and therefore son-in-law to Zeus. This familial connection to the king of the gods provides the necessary qualification for translation to Elysium. The implication creates a troubling precedent that access to this blessed realm depends not on virtue or heroic achievement, but on fortunate marriage alliances with divine bloodlines. This divine favoritism raises profound questions about justice and merit in the cosmic order. If Elysium represents the ultimate reward for mortal existence, why should it be restricted to those with convenient family connections to the gods? Menelaus, while certainly a competent warrior and king, hardly stands out as the most virtuous or heroic figure in the Trojan War cycle. His claim to this extraordinary fate rests entirely on his marriage to Helen, daughter of Zeus. This arbitrary selection process suggests that the gods operate according to personal preference rather than moral principle. The contrast between Elysium and Hades becomes even more pronounced when examining the quality of existence each realm offers. In Hades, the dead retain their consciousness but lose their vitality, becoming mere shadows of their former selves. They possess memory and recognition, but lack the strength and passion that defined their mortal lives. The famous encounter between Odysseus and Achilles in Book 11 of the Odyssey illustrates this diminished existence. The greatest warrior of his generation declares he would rather be a living peasant than a dead king. Elysium offers the opposite experience. Its inhabitants enjoy not merely consciousness but active, vigorous life. The gentle west wind that refreshes the realm suggests ongoing vitality rather than the static preservation of death. The absence of natural hardships means freedom from the struggles that typically define human existence, while the presence of Rhadamanthus ensures that this freedom operates within a framework of perfect justice. The realm promises not just survival after death, but enhanced life freed from mortal limitations. The separation of Elysium from Hades proper creates a bifurcated afterlife system that would influence Greek religious thinking for centuries. Rather than a single destination for all souls, Homer introduces the possibility of multiple afterlife realms serving different purposes for different types of individuals. This development opens the door for later elaborations that would create an increasingly complex geography of death, with various regions serving various categories of souls based on their earthly achievements and divine favour. The temporal aspect of Elysium also differs markedly from the traditional underworld. Hades represents a timeless state where the dead exist in perpetual twilight, neither progressing nor regressing but simply maintaining their shadowy existence. Elysium, by contrast, suggests ongoing activity and development. The rule of Rhadamanthus implies governance and social structure, while the refreshing west wind indicates continuous renewal and change. This dynamic quality transforms the afterlife from mere preservation to active continuation of meaningful existence. Homer's presentation of Elysium establishes precedents that would resonate throughout subsequent Greek literature and religious thought. The concept of divine translation as an alternative to death would inspire numerous later myths of heroes and virtuous individuals being carried away by the gods to blessed realms. The emphasis on divine relationship as qualification for this fate would evolve into more sophisticated discussions of merit and virtue. Most significantly, the very existence of an alternative to the universal fate of Hades would encourage generations of Greek thinkers to imagine increasingly elaborate afterlife possibilities for those who distinguish themselves through exceptional achievement or moral excellence. The divine appointment of Rhadamanthus as supreme judge and ruler of Elysium represents one of the most significant transitions from mortal excellence to eternal authority in Greek mythology. Born from the union of Zeus and Europa, Rhadamanthus entered the world already destined for greatness through his divine parentage. Yet his path to ruling the Blessed Realm required him to prove his worthiness through mortal achievements before ascending to his cosmic role. During his earthly reign as King of Crete, Rhadamanthus established himself as the embodiment of perfect justice. His legal codes became legendary throughout the Mediterranean world, with their emphasis on proportional punishment and unwavering fairness. Unlike many rulers who allowed personal relationships or political considerations to influence their judgments, Rhadamanthus maintained absolute consistency in applying his laws. His courts became famous for their transparency, where evidence rather than social status determined outcomes. This reputation for incorruptible justice caught the attention of his divine father Zeus, who recognized that such unwavering moral authority would prove essential for governing a realm intended to reward virtue. The physical appearance of Rhadamanthus reflected his dual nature as both mortal king and divine judge. Classical sources describe him as possessing the commanding presence expected of Zeus's offspring, with penetrating eyes that seemed capable of perceiving truth through any deception. His voice carried the weight of absolute authority, yet those who appeared before his judgment seat noted an underlying compassion that tempered his strict adherence to justice. Unlike the sometimes capricious nature of Olympic justice, Rhadamanthus embodied consistency and predictability, making his verdicts accepted even by those they condemned. The transition from mortal ruler to eternal judge occurred through a process that differed significantly from typical divine translation. Rather than being swept away while still living like some heroes, Rhadamanthus completed his mortal lifespan, experiencing death in the conventional sense before Zeus elevated him to his new position. This experience of mortality, including its ultimate limitation, provided him with crucial understanding of human nature and the struggles that shaped mortal character. His personal familiarity with death's finality gave weight to his subsequent role in determining who deserved escape from Hades's grim embrace. Zeus's selection of Rhadamanthus for this crucial position reflected careful consideration of the qualities necessary for governing Elysium. The realm required a ruler who could maintain perfect order without oppression, ensure justice without cruelty, and provide guidance without manipulation. Rhadamanthus's mortal experience as a lawgiver prepared him for these responsibilities, while his divine heritage provided the necessary authority to enforce his decisions among both blessed souls and divine entities who might visit the realm. The administrative structure Rhadamanthus established in Elysium reflected his understanding that even paradise required governance to maintain its perfected state. He created a system where the blessed souls themselves participated in maintaining the realm's harmony, with different individuals contributing according to their earthly expertise and natural inclinations. Former kings advised on matters of leadership, philosophers engaged in eternal discourse that enriched the intellectual atmosphere, and artists continued creating beauty that enhanced the realm's aesthetic perfection. Working alongside Rhadamanthus in determining access to Elysium, though operating from different locations in the afterlife geography, were his fellow judges Minos and Aeacus. Each brought distinct perspectives and areas of expertise to the complex process of evaluating mortal souls and determining their appropriate eternal destinations. Minos, another son of Zeus and Europa and brother to Rhadamanthus, served as the primary judge for European souls, while Aeacus, son of Zeus and the nymph Aegina, specialized in judging those from Asia. Minos brought to his judicial role the same meticulous attention to detail that had characterized his mortal reign as King of Crete. His legal innovations during life included the development of complex commercial codes that governed Mediterranean trade relationships, demonstrating his ability to balance competing interests while maintaining fundamental fairness. In his role as afterlife judge, Minos focused particularly on examining how individuals had used power and authority during their mortal lives. He possessed an uncanny ability to detect the subtle corruptions that often accompanied positions of influence, making him particularly effective at evaluating the souls of rulers, merchants, and others who had wielded significant earthly power. The judgment process Minos employed involved careful examination of not just actions but motivations behind those actions. He understood that identical deeds could spring from vastly different moral foundations, and his verdicts reflected this nuanced understanding. A king who imposed harsh laws from genuine concern for his people's welfare received different consideration than one who created identical restrictions purely to consolidate personal power. This sophisticated approach to moral evaluation made Minos' judgments particularly respected among the divine hierarchy. Aeacus contributed a different perspective to the judicial triumvirate through his focus on personal relationships and individual character development. During his mortal life as king of Aegina, he had gained renown for his ability to resolve complex interpersonal disputes and his talent for recognizing genuine virtue beneath surface appearances. His island kingdom had attracted individuals from across the Greek world, seeking his arbitration in matters where other judges had failed to find satisfactory solutions. In his afterlife role, Aeacus specialized in evaluating how individuals had treated those with less power than themselves. He examined relationships between masters and servants, parents and children, teachers and students, looking for evidence of genuine care and respect, rather than mere adherence to social expectations. His judgments often surprised observers by elevating individuals who had lived humble lives, but demonstrated consistent kindness and integrity, while condemning those whose public virtues masked private cruelties. The three judges operated through a complex system of consultation and review that ensured no soul received inappropriate placement through oversight or bias. Each judge conducted preliminary evaluations based on their areas of expertise, but significant cases required consensus among all three. This collaborative approach prevented any single perspective from dominating the judgment process, while ensuring that the full complexity of human moral behavior received proper consideration. In certain mythological traditions, particularly those emphasizing the cyclical nature of divine power, Kronos rather than Rhadamanthus ruled over the Blessed Realm. These accounts position the former king of the Titans as sovereign of the Islands of the Blessed, a variation of Elysium that emphasized its connection to the golden age of his original reign. According to these versions, Zeus's victory in the Titanomachy did not result in Kronos' eternal imprisonment in Tartarus, but rather in his exile to these distant islands where he could rule over a realm that recreated the perfection of his original golden age. The portrayal of Kronos as ruler of the Islands of the Blessed drew heavily on memories of his original reign, when humanity enjoyed freedom from labour, war, and want. Under his governance, the blessed souls experienced a return to this primordial state of ease and abundance. The islands provided everything necessary for perfect happiness without effort or struggle, while Kronos himself embodied the benevolent authority that had characterized his rule before the corruption that led to his downfall. This alternative tradition created interesting theological tensions within Greek religious thought. If Kronos ruled a blessed afterlife realm, it suggested that his defeat by Zeus represented not the triumph of good over evil, but rather a necessary transition in cosmic governance that relegated the former king to a more limited but still significant role. The Islands of the Blessed became a place where the positive aspects of Kronos' nature could flourish without the destructive elements that had made his overthrow necessary. The divine hierarchy that maintained order in Elysium, regardless of whether Rhadamanthus or Kronos served as ultimate authority, operated according to principles fundamentally different from those governing Olympus or other divine realms. Rather than the competitive dynamics and shifting alliances that characterize divine politics elsewhere, Elysium functioned through consensus and cooperation aimed at maintaining the realm's perfect state. The administrative structure included various divine and semi-divine beings who served specific functions in maintaining the realm's operations. Nymphs associated with different aspects of natural beauty ensured that the eternal spring weather remained perfect, while minor deities oversaw the provision of whatever comforts the blessed souls might desire. The entire system operated on the principle that every inhabitant, whether divine administrator or blessed soul, contributed to the collective harmony that defined the realm's essential character. The enforcement of order in Elysium presented unique challenges, since traditional punitive measures seemed inappropriate for a realm dedicated to reward and blessing. Instead, the governance system relied on the natural inclination of virtuous souls toward harmonious behaviour, supplemented by gentle guidance from more experienced inhabitants. The very process of gaining admission to Elysium served as a filtering mechanism that ensured only those capable of contributing to, rather than disrupting the realm's peace, would be granted entry. Communication between Elysium and other divine realms followed carefully regulated protocols that prevented the blessed realm from becoming entangled in the conflicts and controversies that periodically erupted among the Olympian gods. Rhadamanthus, or his equivalent, maintained diplomatic relationships with other divine authorities while preserving Elysium's essential character as a place removed from such disturbances. This isolation protected the blessed souls from having their eternal peace disrupted by divine politics, while ensuring that the realm's governance remained focused on its primary purpose of providing perfect reward for earthly virtue. The selection process for Elysian admission operated through a complex interplay of divine favoritism, exceptional virtue, and mysterious cosmic forces that even the gods themselves seemed unable to fully control or predict. Unlike the straightforward descent to Hades that awaited ordinary mortals, entry into the blessed realm required meeting specific criteria that evolved considerably throughout Greek mythological tradition, reflecting changing cultural values and theological understanding. Divine patronage represented perhaps the most reliable pathway to Elysian immortality, though the nature of this relationship extended far beyond simple worship or devotion. The gods evaluated their mortal favourites based on a combination of personal loyalty, service rendered, and the potential for continued usefulness in cosmic affairs. Heracles exemplified this pathway through his relationship with Zeus, though his journey to divine status required extraordinary suffering and achievement that tested even his superhuman capabilities. Zeus's protection of Heracles began before birth, when Hera's jealous persecution threatened the unborn hero's survival. The king of the gods intervened repeatedly throughout Heracles' mortal life, providing guidance through seemingly impossible labours and ensuring his eventual triumph over forces that would have destroyed lesser heroes. The famous 12 labours themselves served as a divine testing process, with each challenge designed to develop specific aspects of heroic excellence that would qualify Heracles for eventual translation to Olympus and, by extension, access to the blessed realm. The relationship between Heracles and Zeus demonstrated the reciprocal nature of divine patronage. While Zeus provided protection and opportunity, Heracles consistently proved his worthiness through unwavering courage, determination, and loyalty to divine will, even when that will demanded tremendous personal sacrifice. His willingness to endure Hera's persecution without rebellion against the cosmic order impressed even his divine stepmother, ultimately leading to reconciliation and acceptance of his place among the immortals. Athena's patronage of heroes followed different patterns, focusing on intellectual excellence and strategic thinking rather than raw physical prowess. Her relationship with Odysseus illustrated how divine favour could sustain a hero through challenges that required cunning and wisdom rather than strength. Throughout his 10-year journey home from Troy, Athena provided crucial guidance and protection, but always in ways that required Odysseus to demonstrate his own intelligence and resourcefulness. The goddess's intervention typically took subtle forms that enhanced rather than replaced human capability. She might inspire a particularly clever solution to a seemingly impossible problem, or arrange circumstances that allowed heroic virtue to manifest effectively, but she rarely provided direct divine assistance that would diminish the hero's personal achievement. This approach ensured that her favourites earned their eventual rewards through genuine merit rather than mere divine favouritism. Apollo's patronage often focused on artistic and prophetic abilities, selecting mortals who demonstrated exceptional talent in music, poetry, or divine communication. His relationship with Orpheus represented the pinnacle of this type of divine favour, with the god granting musical abilities so extraordinary that they could influence the natural world itself. Orpheus's lyre, a gift from Apollo, possessed power to charm wild beasts, move stones and trees, and even soften the hearts of underworld deities. The tragic nature of Orpheus's story highlighted both the benefits and dangers of divine patronage. Apollo's favour elevated the musician to legendary status and provided him with abilities that transcended normal human limitations, yet it also placed him in situations where mortal understanding proved inadequate for navigating divine complexities. His failed attempt to rescue Eurydice from Hades demonstrated that even divine favour had limits when confronting the fundamental laws governing death and the afterlife. Exceptional virtue and righteousness provided an alternative pathway to Elysian admission that operated independently of specific divine relationships, though the gods remained involved in recognizing and rewarding such excellence. This criterion focused on consistent moral behavior throughout an individual's lifetime, with particular emphasis on justice, courage, and selfless service to others. Aristides the Just, though a historical rather than mythological figure, represented the type of moral excellence that later traditions associated with Elysian worthiness. His nickname derived from his unwavering commitment to fairness and honesty in all dealings, even when such behaviour worked against his personal interests. Stories of his integrity became legendary, including accounts of his poverty resulting from his refusal to profit from public office and his fair treatment of enemies during times of political conflict. The evaluation of virtue required examining not just public actions but private character, including behaviour during moments of crisis when moral principles faced their greatest tests. Heroes who maintained their ethical standards despite tremendous pressure or temptation demonstrated the type of inner strength that qualified them for eternal reward. This assessment process looked beyond surface compliance with social expectations to identify genuine moral conviction. Bellerophon's career illustrated how virtue could elevate a hero to divine attention, while also demonstrating the dangers of pride that could negate previous achievements. His early adventures, including the defeat of the Chimera and various acts of heroic service, established his reputation for courage and righteousness. The winged horse Pegasus, a gift from Athena, symbolized divine recognition of his worthiness and provided him with capabilities that enabled even greater heroic achievements. However, Bellerophon's eventual downfall through attempting to fly to Olympus on Pegasus revealed the fine line between heroic ambition and destructive hubris. His desire to join the gods directly, rather than accepting appropriate rewards for mortal excellence, represented a fundamental misunderstanding of cosmic hierarchy that resulted in divine punishment rather than reward. Zeus struck him down with a thunderbolt, demonstrating that even exceptional virtue could not excuse presumptuous behaviour toward divine authority. The concept of heroic deeds as qualification for Elysian admission encompassed both spectacular single acts and lifetime patterns of exceptional behaviour. Perseus's slaying of Medusa represented the type of singular achievement that could establish heroic credentials, particularly when accomplished through divine guidance and assistance. His successful completion of this seemingly impossible task required not just courage, but careful planning, proper use of divine gifts, and respect for the cosmic forces involved in such supernatural encounters. The aftermath of Perseus's victory proved equally important in establishing his qualifications for eventual blessed existence. Rather than using Medusa's head for personal gain or revenge, he employed its power to protect innocent people and uphold justice, including the rescue of Andromeda and the punishment of those who had wronged his mother. This responsible use of supernatural power demonstrated the type of character that merited divine favour and eventual reward. Theseus's career provided another model of heroic achievement through his systematic elimination of bandits and monsters that threatened travellers and communities throughout Greece. His voluntary assumption of dangerous tasks for the public good, rather than pursuing personal glory or gain, established him as a protector of civilization itself. The famous journey to Crete and victory over the Minotaur represented the culmination of this pattern, saving Athens from tribute payments while eliminating a supernatural threat to human welfare. The complexity of Theseus's later life, including political difficulties and personal tragedies, illustrated how heroic status required sustained excellence, rather than relying on early achievements. His eventual divine translation suggested that the gods evaluated entire lifetimes, rather than focusing exclusively on peak moments of heroic action. Though the specific circumstances of his death and subsequent deification varied among different mythological traditions, royal bloodlines, particularly those tracing descent from Zeus and other Olympian deities, received special consideration in the selection process for Elysian admission. This divine ancestry created inherent connections to cosmic authority that influenced both earthly capabilities and afterlife destinations, though bloodline alone proved insufficient without corresponding achievement and virtue. The children of Zeus faced unique expectations and opportunities that reflected their divine heritage, while requiring them to prove their worthiness through mortal accomplishments. Minos and Rhadamanthus, sons of Zeus and Europa, both achieved legendary status as lawgivers and just rulers, with their divine parentage providing authority and wisdom that enabled exceptional governance during their mortal lives. Their eventual roles as afterlife judges represented natural extensions of capabilities developed through combining divine heritage with earthly experience. Sarpedon, another son of Zeus and Europa, demonstrated how divine bloodline could provide heroic capabilities while still requiring personal choice and effort to achieve greatness. His role as a Trojan ally during the siege of Troy showcased divine heritage, translated into exceptional military leadership and personal courage, though his eventual death in battle proved that divine parentage did not guarantee immunity from mortal limitations. The relationship between Zeus and his mortal offspring involved careful balance between providing advantages and allowing natural development of character and ability. Direct divine intervention that eliminated all challenges would have prevented the growth necessary for eventual divine status, while complete abandonment would have wasted the potential inherent in divine bloodlines. The resulting dynamic required divine children to prove themselves worthy of their heritage through exceptional achievement. Descendants of other Olympian deities faced similar expectations adjusted for their divine parents' particular sphere of influence. Children of Poseidon often demonstrated exceptional abilities related to seafaring and aquatic environments, while those descended from Apollo showed talents in music, prophecy, or healing. These inherited capabilities provided advantages that enabled extraordinary achievement, but only when combined with appropriate character development and virtuous behaviour. The mysterious process of selection for Elysian admission operated through mechanisms that remained opaque even to careful observers of divine behaviour. The interaction between fate and divine intervention in determining worthiness created complex situations where predetermined destiny intersected with conscious choice by both mortals and gods, producing outcomes that sometimes surprised all parties involved. The role of the fates in this selection process created theological puzzles that Greek thinkers struggled to resolve throughout their cultural development. If Clotho, Lachesis, and Atropos predetermined all mortal destinies, including afterlife destinations, then divine selection of Elysian inhabitants merely fulfilled existing cosmic plans rather than representing genuine choice or reward for achievement. However, if the gods possessed real authority to alter predetermined fates, then the cosmic order operated according to more flexible principles that allowed merit and divine favour to influence ultimate outcomes. Cassandra's prophetic abilities provided unique insights into this tension between fate and divine choice, though her curse of being disbelieved prevented her from effectively communicating these revelations to others. Her visions of future events, including glimpses of afterlife destinations for various heroes and rulers, suggested that Elysian selection followed patterns that could be perceived and predicted, yet the specific mechanisms remained hidden from ordinary understanding. The timing of divine selection decisions varied considerably among different cases, with some heroes apparently destined for Elysian admission from birth, while others earned this privilege through later achievements or divine recognition. Achilles received prophecies indicating his choice between long life and eternal glory, suggesting that his eventual afterlife status remained undetermined until he made crucial decisions about how to live his mortal existence. Divine counsels and discussions about mortal worthiness occasionally influenced selection outcomes, particularly in cases where multiple deities claimed interest in specific individuals or where competing interpretations of merit created disagreement among divine authorities. These deliberations reveal that even gods sometimes disagreed about appropriate criteria for Elysian admission, leading to negotiations and compromises that affected final decisions. The influence of divine politics on selection processes created situations where worthy individuals might be excluded due to conflicts among their divine patrons, while others received favourable consideration through fortunate alignments of divine interest. These political dimensions added unpredictable elements to the selection process that prevented it from operating as a purely meritocratic system based on objective evaluation of virtue and achievement. The physical manifestation of Elysium defied every natural law that governed mortal existence, creating a realm where the very elements conspired to produce perfect harmony and eternal comfort. The climate maintained perpetual spring conditions that eliminated the harsh extremes of weather that plagued earthly regions, establishing atmospheric conditions so precisely calibrated that no inhabitant ever experienced discomfort from temperature, humidity, or atmospheric pressure. The gentle breezes that circulated throughout the realm originated from Oceanus, the great world river that encircled all existence, carrying with them the essence of divine refreshment that penetrated every corner of the blessed territory. These winds possessed qualities that transcended mere air movement, infusing the atmosphere with properties that sustained both physical comfort and spiritual well-being. Unlike earthly breezes that might carry dust, moisture, or the sense of decay, the Elysian winds delivered only pure refreshment that seemed to cleanse both body and spirit of any lingering traces of mortal weariness. The temperature remained constant at that perfect point where neither warmth nor coolness dominated, creating an environment where the blessed souls could exist in complete physical ease, without the need for shelter or protective clothing. The absence of seasonal change eliminated the cycle of growth, decline and renewal that characterized mortal landscapes, replacing it with a state of eternal flourishing that maintained peak beauty and abundance throughout all time. No autumn brought withering leaves or dying vegetation, no winter imposed dormancy or scarcity, and no harsh summer created scorching heat or drought conditions. The elimination of these natural cycles meant that every plant, tree and flower existed in its most perfect state of development, never aging beyond peak beauty or declining into senescence. Storm systems that brought destruction and fear to mortal lands simply could not form in Elysian skies. The atmospheric conditions that generated lightning, hail, tornadoes, or devastating winds remained fundamentally incompatible with the realm's essential nature. Rain, while occasionally present as gentle showers that enhanced rather than disrupted outdoor activities, never fell with the violence or duration that could cause flooding or damage. The sky maintained a luminous quality that provided perfect illumination without the harsh glare that could cause discomfort, or the deep shadows that might harbour unpleasant associations. The topographical features of Elysium created a landscape that combined natural beauty with supernatural perfection, establishing geographical formations that served both aesthetic and functional purposes for the realm's inhabitants. Golden meadows stretched across vast distances, their grass maintaining a lustrous quality that seemed to capture and reflect divine light, while providing surfaces so perfectly level and soft that walking across them felt like floating above the ground itself. These meadows never showed signs of wear or damage despite constant use by the blessed souls, regenerating instantly from any disturbance while maintaining their pristine appearance. The golden coloration of the grass stemmed not from any earthly mineral content, but from its absorption of divine radiance that permeated every aspect of the realm. Each blade possessed an inner luminescence that contributed to the overall brightness of the landscape, while creating subtle variations in hue and intensity that prevented the monotony that might result from uniform colouring. When gentle breezes moved across these meadows, waves of light rippled through the grass in patterns that created ever-changing displays of natural artistry. Crystal streams meandered through the landscape with waters so pure and clear that they appeared to be flowing light rather than liquid. These waterways maintained perfect transparency that allowed observation of every detail of their beds, which consisted of precious stones and metals arranged in patterns of extraordinary beauty. The streams flowed with musical sounds that harmonized with the general atmosphere of peace and contentment, their gentle murmuring providing a constant background of soothing audio that enhanced rather than disturbed contemplation or conversation. The water itself possessed properties that went beyond normal liquid characteristics, providing not just refreshment but actual rejuvenation to those who drank from the streams. Unlike mortal waters that might carry impurities or require treatment for safe consumption, Elysian streams delivered absolute purity that cleansed and restored both physical and spiritual vitality. The temperature of these waters remained perfectly suited to each individual's preference, somehow adjusting automatically to provide optimal refreshment regardless of personal taste or need. Fish swam in these crystal streams, but they represented species unknown to mortal waters, displaying colours and patterns that reflected the supernatural beauty of their environment. These aquatic inhabitants showed no fear of the blessed souls, often swimming directly to the surface to interact with those who approached the water's edge. Their presence added movement and life to the streams, while maintaining the peaceful atmosphere that characterized all aspects of Elysian existence. Groves of immortal trees created shaded areas throughout the realm where the blessed souls could gather for conversation, contemplation, or simply to enjoy the perfect environment in the company of others. These trees grew to magnificent proportions without ever reaching the point of overmaturity that might lead to decay or collapse. Their trunks displayed bark with textures and patterns that rivaled the finest artistic creations, while their branches extended in graceful configurations that provided optimal shade distribution without creating areas of excessive darkness. The leaves of these immortal trees maintained eternal freshness and vitality, never yellowing, browning, or falling to create debris that would mar the perfect landscape. Each leaf possessed its own subtle luminescence that contributed to the filtered light beneath the canopy, creating an atmosphere of gentle illumination that enhanced the natural beauty of everything within the grove. The rustling of these leaves in the divine breezes produced sounds of extraordinary musical quality that seemed to resonate with harmonic frequencies that promoted peace and contentment. Divine fruit grew abundantly on many of these trees, providing sustenance that surpassed any earthly food in both flavour and nutritional value. These fruits ripened continuously without depleting the tree's energy or requiring the seasonal cycles that governed mortal agriculture. Each variety offered unique tastes that satisfied not just physical hunger but spiritual longing, providing complete nourishment that eliminated any need for the labour-intensive food production that characterised mortal existence. The fruit possessed the remarkable quality of adapting to each individual's preferences and needs, somehow providing exactly the right combination of flavours and nutrients to optimise that person's well-being and satisfaction. No two blessed souls necessarily experienced identical tastes when consuming the same fruit, yet each found perfect satisfaction in what they received. This supernatural accommodation ensured that dietary needs never created conflict or competition among the realm's inhabitants. Architectural marvels throughout Elysium demonstrated the application of divine craftsmanship to creating structures that served both practical and aesthetic purposes, while maintaining perfect harmony with the natural environment. Palaces constructed from precious metals rose from the landscape without disrupting its essential beauty, their walls gleaming with surfaces of gold, silver and metals unknown to mortal smiths. These buildings possessed proportions that satisfied every aesthetic principle while providing spacious interiors that could accommodate any number of inhabitants without crowding or discomfort. The precious metals used in these constructions maintained their lustrous beauty without requiring maintenance or protection from environmental damage. Unlike earthly metals that might tarnish, corrode, or require polishing to maintain their appearance, Elysian building materials preserved their perfect condition through inherent supernatural properties that made deterioration impossible. The surfaces reflected light in ways that enhanced rather than overwhelmed the visual experience, creating gentle glows that contributed to the overall luminosity of the environment. Interior spaces within these palaces featured rooms designed to accommodate every possible activity that might interest the blessed souls, from intimate conversations between small groups to large gatherings that brought together hundreds of inhabitants. The acoustics of these spaces automatically adjusted to optimize sound quality for whatever type of interaction occurred within them, ensuring that speakers could be clearly heard without shouting while preventing conversations from interfering with each other in adjacent areas. Furnishings within the palaces consisted of materials and craftsmanship that exceeded anything available to mortal artisans, yet they avoided ostentatious display that might create feelings of inequality or competition among the inhabitants. Chairs, tables, beds, and other furniture pieces provided perfect comfort while maintaining designs that complemented rather than dominated their surroundings. The supernatural properties of these furnishings allowed them to adjust automatically to the preferences and physical needs of whoever used them, ensuring optimal comfort for every individual. Gardens throughout the realm showcased flowers that had never bloomed in mortal soil, displaying colours and forms that transcended earthly botanical possibilities. These supernatural blossoms maintained eternal freshness without requiring the care and cultivation that mortal gardens demanded, blooming continuously in displays that provided ever-changing arrangements of beauty and fragrance. The flowers grew in patterns that seemed to follow artistic principles rather than random natural distribution, creating compositions that rivaled the finest human artwork while maintaining the organic quality of natural growth. The fragrances produced by these divine flowers possessed qualities that enhanced mood and promoted well-being without ever becoming overwhelming or cloying. Each blossom contributed its unique scent to a complex olfactory symphony that varied throughout the realm while maintaining overall harmony and pleasantness. The blessed souls could enjoy these fragrances without concern for allergic reactions or sensitivities that might have affected them during mortal existence, as the supernatural nature of the flowers eliminated any possibility of adverse effects. Pathways connecting different areas of the realm consisted of materials that provided perfect walking surfaces while contributing to the overall aesthetic beauty of the landscape. These paths never showed wear or damage despite constant use, maintaining smooth, level surfaces that made travel effortless, while displaying patterns and textures that pleased the eye. The materials used in path construction included precious stones, refined metals, and substances unknown to earthly geology, all arranged in designs that guided foot traffic while creating artistic displays that enhanced the journey between destinations. The lighting throughout Elysium emanated from sources that remained mysteriously invisible, yet provided perfect illumination for all activities and locations. This divine radiance eliminated the harsh contrasts between light and shadow that characterized earthly environments, instead creating gentle gradations that revealed every detail while maintaining the soft, pleasant quality that promoted visual comfort. The light possessed qualities that seemed to enhance the natural colours of everything it touched, making the golden meadows more lustrous, the crystal streams more brilliant, and the divine flowers more vibrant. Unlike earthly light sources that might create glare, heat, or areas of excessive brightness, Elysian illumination distributed itself with perfect evenness that eliminated any visual discomfort while providing optimal conditions for every type of activity. Reading, conversation, artistic creation, or simple contemplation all benefited from lighting that automatically adjusted to support whatever pursuits the blessed souls chose to engage in. The complete absence of the River Lethe from Elysium proper distinguished the blessed realm from other areas of the afterlife geography, preserving the memories and identities that made eternal existence meaningful rather than merely pleasant. While Lethe flowed through other regions of Hades, offering forgetfulness to souls who found their memories too painful to bear, Elysian inhabitants retained full recollection of their mortal lives and the achievements that had earned them their blessed status. This preservation of memory served crucial purposes in maintaining the character and purpose of Elysian existence. The blessed souls could continue to appreciate the significance of their reward because they remembered the struggles and limitations of mortal life that made their current state so precious. Their memories of earthly relationships, achievements, and experiences provided continuity between their previous existence and their eternal reward, ensuring that their new state represented genuine fulfillment rather than mere pleasant oblivion. The retention of memory also enabled the blessed souls to continue growing and developing based on their accumulated wisdom and experience. Rather than starting fresh without the benefit of learned knowledge, they could build upon their mortal understanding while adding new insights gained through their enhanced existence in the perfect environment of Elysium. This continuity of consciousness made their eternal reward meaningful in ways that simple, pleasant existence without memory could never achieve. The preservation of memory in Elysium enabled a remarkable phenomenon whereby the realm attracted not just those who achieved heroic status through battlefield glory, but individuals whose exceptional virtue manifested in countless different forms throughout their mortal lives. Among the most celebrated inhabitants stood Menelaus, whose translation to the Blessed Realm occurred through circumstances that fundamentally challenged traditional Greek understanding of death and divine favour. Proteus's prophecy regarding Menelaus established a precedent that would influence Greek theological thinking for centuries. The sea god's declaration that the Spartan king would bypass death entirely and be carried directly to Elysium, while still living, represented a form of divine translation that differed markedly from the typical pattern of heroic apotheosis. Unlike heroes who achieved divine status after death through their extraordinary deeds, Menelaus received his eternal reward based primarily on his marriage to Helen, daughter of Zeus, creating a controversial precedent that suggested divine bloodline connections could supersede personal merit in determining afterlife destinations. The specific circumstances surrounding Menelaus's prophesied translation reveal the complex relationship between fate, divine favour, and personal achievement in determining access to the Blessed Realm. His role in the Trojan War, while significant as the wronged husband whose honour demanded satisfaction, hardly distinguished him as the conflict's most heroic participant. His military prowess, though competent, paled beside the achievements of Achilles, Ajax, or Diomedes. His leadership abilities, while adequate for maintaining Spartan royal authority, lacked the innovative brilliance that characterized figures like Odysseus or Nestor. Yet Proteus's prophecy suggested that these conventional measures of heroic excellence mattered less than Menelaus's unique position within the divine family structure. His marriage to Helen created a direct kinship bond with Zeus that apparently outweighed considerations of personal merit or exceptional achievement. This divine favoritism based on family connections rather than earned virtue created theological difficulties for Greek thinkers who preferred to believe that cosmic justice operated according to comprehensible moral principles. The implications of Menelaus's exceptional fate extended beyond individual reward to encompass broader questions about divine justice and the criteria governing access to eternal bliss. If the gods selected Elysian inhabitants based on family relationships rather than moral excellence, then the entire system of divine reward and punishment operated according to arbitrary preferences rather than consistent ethical standards. This possibility troubled Greek philosophers and religious thinkers who sought to understand cosmic justice in terms that aligned with human concepts of fairness and merit. Nevertheless, Menelaus's case established that divine translation could occur through mechanisms other than heroic achievement or exceptional virtue, opening possibilities for other forms of divine favour that might elevate mortals to blessed status. His prophesied journey to Elysium while still living demonstrated that the gods possessed authority to alter fundamental natural laws when circumstances warranted such intervention, suggesting that divine power operated according to principles that transcended ordinary understanding of death and afterlife. The tradition surrounding various Trojan War heroes revealed how exceptional courage and honour in warfare could earn divine recognition that led to Elysian admission, though the specific mechanisms varied considerably among different accounts. Diomedes represented perhaps the clearest example of battlefield excellence translating into divine favour, his extraordinary performance during the conflict earning recognition from multiple Olympian deities who witnessed his prowess firsthand. During the famous day of his greatest glory described in the 5th book of the Iliad, Diomedes demonstrated courage that surpassed normal human limitations when Athena granted him the ability to distinguish between gods and mortals on the battlefield. Armed with this divine insight, he engaged in combat with supernatural opponents, wounding both Aphrodite and Ares when they intervened to protect their favoured warriors. His willingness to face divine adversaries in defence of his comrades and his cause impressed even those gods who opposed the Greek forces. The goddess Athena's particular favour toward Diomedes stemmed from his combination of physical courage with tactical intelligence that made him an ideal warrior in her estimation. Unlike berserkers who fought with blind fury, or cowards who sought glory through safe opportunities, Diomedes displayed calculated bravery that maximised effectiveness while minimising unnecessary risk. His ability to assess battlefield situations quickly and respond with appropriate force made him invaluable during critical moments when tactical decisions determined victory or defeat. Beyond his individual combat prowess, Diomedes demonstrated leadership qualities that earned respect from both his own troops and enemy forces who observed his conduct during the lengthy siege. His treatment of prisoners and non-combatants reflected adherence to honour codes that elevated warfare above mere violence, while his loyalty to his allies remained unshakable even during periods when Greek morale faltered. These character traits, combined with his exceptional fighting ability, created a reputation that attracted divine attention and approval. The mysterious circumstances surrounding Diomedes' eventual fate varied among different mythological traditions, with some accounts describing his translation to divine status, while others depicted his settlement in distant lands where he established new kingdoms. The variations in these stories reflected different interpretations of how his wartime achievements should be rewarded, though most traditions agreed that his exceptional service during the Trojan conflict earned him special consideration from the gods. Other Trojan War heroes achieved Elysian status through different combinations of courage, honour, and divine favour that reflected their individual characteristics and achievements. Ajax the Greater, son of Telamon, earned recognition through his role as the Greeks' defensive bulwark during critical phases of the siege, when enemy forces threatened to overwhelm their positions. His massive shield and unbreakable courage in defensive combat saved countless Greek lives during moments when defeat seemed imminent. Ajax's reputation for reliability in desperate situations made him the natural choice for assignments that other heroes might consider beneath their dignity or too dangerous to attempt. His willingness to accept responsibility for protecting retreat routes, holding defensive positions, or covering the movements of more glamorous heroes demonstrated selfless dedication to collective success rather than personal glory. This consistent pattern of putting group welfare above individual recognition impressed divine observers who valued such character traits. The tragic circumstances surrounding Ajax's death, resulting from his inability to accept Achilles' armour being awarded to Odysseus, complicated his eventual divine recognition. His suicide represented a fundamental failure to maintain the emotional control that characterized true heroic excellence. Yet, his previous achievements and essential nobility of character apparently outweighed this final lapse in divine evaluation. Various traditions suggested that the gods eventually granted him peace and honour in recognition of his overall service, despite his unfortunate end. Lesser-known heroes from the Trojan conflict also achieved blessed status through specific acts of exceptional valour or virtue that caught divine attention, even though their names remained less celebrated in popular tradition. Protesilaus, the first Greek to die at Troy, received special consideration for his willingness to lead the initial assault despite knowing that prophecy doomed the first man to set foot on Trojan soil. His conscious sacrifice of personal safety for the collective good demonstrated the type of selfless courage that merited divine reward. The story of Protesilaus also illustrated how divine favour could extend to include beloved spouses whose grief and loyalty impressed the gods sufficiently to warrant special consideration. His wife Laodamia's inconsolable mourning and eventual reunion with his shade convinced some deities that such devoted love deserved recognition and reward. Various traditions described her eventual translation to join her husband in blessed existence, suggesting that extraordinary human relationships could influence divine decisions about afterlife destinations. Beyond the famous conflicts that dominated heroic literature, numerous righteous kings achieved Elysian status through consistent, just governance and protection of their subjects' welfare over extended periods of peaceful rule. These monarchs demonstrated that heroic excellence could manifest through administrative competence and moral leadership rather than requiring spectacular military achievements or dramatic acts of individual courage. King Aeacus of Aegina established the prototype for royal virtue that earned divine recognition through his reputation for absolute justice and fair dealing in all matters brought before his judgment. His court became famous throughout the Greek world for its transparency and consistency, with supplicants travelling great distances to seek his arbitration in disputes that other rulers had failed to resolve satisfactorily. His decisions invariably reflected careful consideration of evidence and testimony rather than favouritism based on social status or personal relationships. The administrative systems Aeacus developed for governing his island kingdom demonstrated how royal authority could serve public welfare rather than personal enrichment or aggrandizement. His tax policies distributed burdens fairly among all citizens, regardless of their wealth or political connections, while his public works projects focused on improving conditions for common people rather than creating monuments to royal vanity. These policies created prosperity and contentment that attracted favourable divine attention to his rule. Aeacus's personal character complemented his administrative excellence through consistent demonstration of the virtues he demanded from his subjects. His personal life remained free from the scandals and excesses that characterised many royal courts, while his treatment of family members, servants and visitors reflected the same principles of fairness and respect that governed his official decisions. This consistency between public and private behaviour convinced divine observers that his virtue was genuine rather than merely political calculation. The transformation of Aeacus into one of the three judges of the dead represented natural progression from his mortal role as arbiter of human disputes to cosmic responsibility for evaluating souls seeking appropriate afterlife destinations. His experience in assessing human character and motivation during his earthly reign prepared him perfectly for the more complex task of determining eternal rewards and punishments based on complete knowledge of individual lives and motivations. Other righteous monarchs achieved similar recognition through different expressions of royal virtue that reflected their particular circumstances and challenges. King Minos of Crete earned divine favour through his development of comprehensive legal codes that balanced individual rights with collective welfare, creating judicial systems that served as models for other Mediterranean civilizations. His laws addressed complex commercial relationships, family disputes, and criminal behaviour with sophisticated understanding of human psychology and social dynamics. The legendary justice of Minos' legal system attracted supplicants from across the known world who sought resolution of disputes that local authorities could not handle effectively. His court procedures ensured that all parties received fair hearings, regardless of their social status or political connections, while his punishments focused on restoration and deterrence rather than mere retribution. These innovations in legal practice demonstrated how royal authority could serve higher principles of justice, rather than simply maintaining order through force. Minos' personal relationship with Zeus, his divine father, provided him with insights into cosmic justice that enhanced his ability to create earthly legal systems that reflected divine principles. His regular consultations with Zeus in the sacred cave on Mount Ida gave him access to wisdom that transcended normal human understanding of right and wrong, enabling him to craft laws that addressed not just immediate social needs, but fundamental questions of moral behaviour and social responsibility. The eventual appointment of Minos as judge of the dead alongside Aeacus and Rhadamanthus represented divine recognition that his earthly experience in legal matters qualified him for cosmic judicial responsibility. His familiarity with the complexities of human motivation and behaviour, combined with his commitment to absolute fairness, made him ideally suited for evaluating souls seeking admission to various afterlife destinations based on their moral achievements and failures. Among the most remarkable categories of Elysian inhabitants were beloved mortals of the gods, whose relationships with divine beings elevated them to blessed status through the depth and quality of their personal connections rather than spectacular public achievements. These individuals demonstrated that intimate divine favour could result from qualities of character and personality that attracted divine attention and affection on personal, rather than cosmic levels. Ganymede represented the most famous example of mortal beauty and character, inspiring divine love that led to translation from earthly existence to eternal blessed status. The young Trojan prince attracted Zeus's attention through his exceptional physical beauty, combined with character traits that impressed the king of the gods sufficiently to warrant direct intervention in his mortal fate. Zeus's transformation into an eagle to carry Ganymede to Olympus demonstrated the extraordinary measures divine beings would take to preserve mortals who captured their affection. The relationship between Zeus and Ganymede transcended simple physical attraction to encompass genuine appreciation for the youth's personality and character. Ganymede's role as cupbearer to the gods required not just physical beauty but also discretion, reliability, and the ability to interact appropriately with divine beings, whose moods and preferences could change rapidly and dramatically. His success in this position demonstrated qualities of tact and adaptability that justified Zeus's initial attraction and subsequent favour. Ganymede's translation to divine status while still young preserved him at the peak of his physical beauty and mental acuity, enabling him to serve effectively in his cosmic role while enjoying the benefits of immortal existence. His presence among the Olympian gods as both servant and honoured companion illustrated how divine favour could elevate mortals to positions that combined privilege with responsibility, creating meaningful existence rather than mere pleasant reward. The precedent established by Ganymede's translation influenced divine attitudes toward other mortals whose beauty, character, or special talents attracted divine attention and affection. His successful adaptation to immortal existence demonstrated that carefully selected mortals could integrate effectively into divine society while maintaining the essential human qualities that had originally attracted divine interest. Psyche's journey from mortal princess to divine status through her relationship with Eros illustrated how love between mortals and gods could overcome seemingly insurmountable obstacles when supported by genuine virtue and determination. Her initial attraction of divine attention through her extraordinary beauty created jealousy and opposition from Aphrodite, yet her willingness to endure tremendous hardships to prove her love for Eros ultimately earned recognition and acceptance from the entire divine community. The trials Aphrodite imposed on Psyche tested not just her devotion to Eros, but her fundamental character and worthiness for divine status. The seemingly impossible tasks she faced required courage, intelligence, and persistence that revealed inner qualities that matched her external beauty. Her successful completion of these challenges demonstrated that her love for Eros was based on genuine appreciation for his character rather than mere infatuation with his divine status. Psyche's eventual transformation into a goddess through her marriage to Eros established her as a model for how mortal virtue could earn divine recognition and reward even when initial circumstances seemed unpromising. Her story illustrated that divine love relationships could transcend the typical power imbalances between immortal and mortal beings when based on mutual respect and genuine affection rather than simple desire or convenience. The birth of Psyche's daughter Hedone symbolized the fruitful union that could result from successful relationships between divine and mortal beings who overcame obstacles through commitment to each other and demonstration of worthy character. This offspring represented the positive potential of such unions, when both parties proved worthy of their elevated status through their actions and choices. Virtuous women throughout Greek mythology achieved Elysian status through various forms of exceptional moral behaviour that impressed divine observers and earned recognition for their contributions to human welfare and cosmic harmony. These women demonstrated that feminine virtue could manifest through different expressions of excellence that complemented rather than competed with masculine forms of heroic achievement. Alcestis exemplified the type of self-sacrificing love that earned divine recognition and eventual reward through her willingness to die in place of her husband Admetus when the fates decreed his death. Her voluntary acceptance of mortality to preserve his life demonstrated devotion that transcended normal human attachments and impressed even the underworld deities who normally showed no mercy to mortal supplicants. The intervention of Heracles in rescuing Alcestis from death illustrated how her virtue attracted support from other heroic figures who recognized the exceptional nature of her sacrifice. Heracles' successful wrestling match with Death himself to restore Alcestis to life represented divine approval of her actions and recognition that such extraordinary virtue deserved preservation and reward. Her eventual translation to blessed status reflected cosmic acknowledgement that her selfless love qualified her for eternal happiness. Alcestis' story established precedents for how feminine virtue could influence cosmic justice and divine decision-making through demonstration of love and loyalty that exceeded normal human limitations. Her willingness to sacrifice her own welfare for her husband's benefit illustrated the type of character that merited divine intervention and eventual reward with blessed existence. Penelope's 20-year vigil awaiting Odysseus's return from Troy demonstrated another form of feminine virtue that earned divine recognition through its consistency and unwavering faith despite tremendous pressure and temptation. Her resistance to the suitors who invaded her household required not just personal loyalty, but political skill and emotional strength that protected both her own honour and her husband's kingdom during his extended absence. The strategies Penelope employed to delay choosing a new husband, while maintaining hope for Odysseus's return, revealed intelligence and resourcefulness that complemented her emotional constancy. Her famous weaving and unweaving of Laertes' burial shroud demonstrated creative problem-solving that bought time while avoiding direct confrontation with powerful men who could have destroyed her through force or political manipulation. Penelope's eventual reunion with Odysseus and restoration of their marriage represented divine approval of her faithful endurance and recognition that such unwavering loyalty deserved preservation and reward. Various traditions suggested that her exceptional virtue qualified her for eventual translation to blessed existence alongside her heroic husband, acknowledging that her contributions to their shared achievements merited equal divine recognition. The daily existence within Elysium revolved around pleasures that transcended every limitation of mortal experience, beginning with eternal banquets that demonstrated the realm's capacity to provide perfect satisfaction without effort or scarcity. These magnificent feasts materialized spontaneously whenever the blessed souls desired communal dining, with tables appearing across the golden meadows laden with foods that surpassed earthly cuisine in every conceivable way. The tables themselves, crafted from precious woods that gleamed with inner light, stretched to accommodate any number of participants without crowding, their surfaces automatically adjusting to provide optimal spacing and comfort for each individual. The centerpiece of every Elysian feast consisted of ambrosia, the legendary food of the gods that provided not merely sustenance, but actual enhancement of the consumer's divine nature. Unlike mortal foods that satisfied temporary hunger while requiring constant replenishment, ambrosia delivered complete nourishment that eliminated any need for further consumption, while simultaneously strengthening the spiritual essence of those who partook of it. The substance appeared differently to each blessed soul, manifesting as whatever form would provide maximum pleasure and satisfaction based on individual preferences and memories of beloved earthly foods. Some inhabitants perceived ambrosia as perfectly prepared versions of dishes they had cherished during mortal life, enhanced beyond earthly possibility, yet maintaining the essential characteristics that made them personally meaningful. Others experienced it as entirely new flavours that their mortal palates could never have comprehended, tastes that seemed to capture abstract concepts like joy, peace, or contentment in edible form. The substance possessed the remarkable quality of providing exactly the right amount for complete satisfaction, without ever creating feelings of excess or discomfort that might diminish the pleasure of consumption. Accompanying the ambrosia, nectar flowed freely from golden vessels that never emptied regardless of how much liquid was poured from them. This divine drink possessed properties that complemented the ambrosia perfectly, providing refreshment that enhanced rather than competed with the food's effects. The nectar maintained ideal temperature and consistency for each drinker, somehow adjusting its qualities to match individual preferences while delivering the same fundamental divine essence to all who consumed it. The flavour of nectar defied description in mortal terms, combining elements of the finest earthly wines with qualities that existed only in the divine realm. It carried hints of flowers that bloomed nowhere but in paradise, fruits that grew only on immortal trees, and essences that captured the very spirit of celebration and joy. The drink provided gentle intoxication that enhanced sociability and happiness, without impairing judgment or creating the negative effects associated with mortal alcohol consumption. Wine of extraordinary quality supplemented the nectar at Elysian banquets, produced from grapes that grew in vineyards tended by divine beings who understood the art of viticulture at levels impossible for mortal vintners. These wines possessed complexity that reflected centuries of perfect aging combined with supernatural enhancement that elevated them beyond any earthly vintage. Each variety offered distinct characteristics that appealed to different tastes and occasions, yet all shared the common quality of bringing only positive effects to those who consumed them. The blessed souls could indulge in these divine wines without concern for the hangovers, impaired thinking, or destructive behaviour that plagued mortal drinking. Instead, the wine enhanced their natural virtues and capabilities, making conversation more brilliant, laughter more genuine, and fellowship more profound. The alcohol content provided pleasant relaxation and social lubrication without crossing the threshold into intoxication that might diminish the dignity appropriate to their blessed status. Servants at these eternal banquets consisted of divine beings and nature spirits who took genuine pleasure in providing perfect service to the blessed souls. These attendants possessed intuitive understanding of each guest's preferences and needs, ensuring that every aspect of the dining experience proceeded smoothly without requiring requests or instructions. Their service reflected not subservience, but joyful participation in the celebration of virtue and achievement that characterized Elysian existence. The banquet settings themselves adapted to match the desires and moods of the participants, with decorations, lighting, and atmospheric effects adjusting automatically to enhance the occasion. Flowers bloomed spontaneously around the dining areas, their fragrances complementing the aromas of the divine foods, while their colours created visual harmony that pleased every observer. Musical accompaniment arose from unseen sources, providing background melodies that enhanced conversation without overwhelming it. Athletic competitions throughout Elysium showcased the enhanced physical capabilities that blessed souls enjoyed in their perfected forms, allowing them to engage in contests that demonstrated heroic prowess without the pain, exhaustion, or risk of injury that limited mortal athletics. These events served multiple purposes beyond simple entertainment, providing opportunities for the heroes to maintain and display the physical excellence that had contributed to their earthly achievements, while creating social occasions that brought together individuals from different eras and backgrounds. The running competitions took place across courses that challenged speed, endurance, and tactical thinking while eliminating the harsh conditions that made earthly races difficult or dangerous. Tracks materialized across the golden meadows with surfaces that provided perfect footing regardless of weather conditions, their lengths adjusting to accommodate different types of races, from brief sprints to extended distance events that could continue for hours without causing fatigue to the participants. Competitors in these races experienced the joy of pushing their enhanced bodies to maximum performance without the burning muscles, laboured breathing, or physical distress that accompanied intense exertion during mortal existence. Their perfected forms responded to demands for speed and endurance by providing exactly the capabilities needed, while maintaining comfort and pleasure throughout the competition. Victory in these contests brought honour and recognition, without creating the jealousy or resentment that often accompanied earthly athletic success. Wrestling matches allowed heroes to demonstrate the combat skills that had distinguished them during their mortal careers, while eliminating the violence and potential for serious injury that characterized earthly martial contests. The blessed souls engaged in these competitions with full intensity and commitment, using techniques and strategies that reflected their individual fighting styles and preferences, yet their enhanced nature prevented any possibility of permanent damage or excessive pain. The wrestling grounds provided ideal surfaces for these competitions, with areas that cushioned falls and impacts while maintaining enough firmness to allow effective grappling techniques. Spectators gathered to observe these matches, appreciating the skill and strength displayed by the competitors while enjoying the social aspects of these sporting events. The contest created opportunities for heroes from different eras to test their abilities against each other, settling questions about relative prowess that had been impossible to resolve during their separate mortal lifetimes. Boxing competitions followed similar principles, allowing warriors to demonstrate their striking techniques and defensive capabilities in matches that showcased genuine skill without creating the brain damage, broken bones, or disfigurement that made mortal boxing dangerous. The enhanced resilience of blessed souls meant they could absorb powerful blows that would have been devastating to earthly fighters, while experiencing only the satisfaction of testing their abilities against worthy opponents. Weapons training and martial displays provided opportunities for heroes to maintain proficiency with the arms and armour that had defined their earthly achievements, while adapting these skills to the enhanced capabilities of their perfected forms. Swordfighting demonstrations allowed master warriors to display techniques that combined traditional methods with innovations possible only through their supernatural strength and speed. These exhibitions served educational purposes as well as entertainment, with younger or less experienced heroes learning from the masters who had achieved legendary status through their martial prowess. Archery competitions tested precision and consistency over distances that would have been impossible for mortal bowmen, with targets appearing at extreme ranges that challenged even the enhanced capabilities of blessed souls. The bows used in these contests possessed supernatural properties that amplified the archer's natural abilities while requiring corresponding skill and concentration to achieve accuracy. These events attracted participants who had gained fame for their shooting abilities during their earthly lives, including hunters, warriors, and those who had achieved mythical status for their marksmanship. Chariot racing provided spectacular entertainment that combined the skills of both driver and horses in competitions that showcased speed, maneuverability, and tactical thinking without the crashes and injuries that made earthly chariot racing extremely dangerous. The divine horses that pulled these vehicles possessed intelligence and capabilities that surpassed any mortal steeds, yet they responded to their drivers' commands with perfect obedience and cooperation. The racing courses featured challenging turns, elevation changes, and obstacles that tested driving skills while providing exciting spectacles for observers. Musical performances throughout Elysium created auditory experiences that transcended every limitation of mortal music making, featuring divine bards whose supernatural abilities allowed them to produce sounds and harmonies impossible for earthly musicians. These performers possessed voices that could span octaves beyond normal human range, while maintaining perfect clarity and emotional expression throughout their extended vocal displays. The instrumental skills matched their vocal abilities, with techniques that made their lyres, flutes, and other instruments sing with qualities that seemed to capture the very essence of divine beauty. The repertoires of these divine musicians included songs that chronicled the great deeds and adventures that had earned various souls their places in Elysium, creating musical narratives that celebrated virtue and achievement while providing entertainment that educated and inspired listeners. These epic ballads possessed the power to make listeners feel as though they were experiencing the events being described, with musical techniques that created vivid mental images and emotional responses that enhanced the storytelling beyond what words alone could achieve. Love songs performed by divine bards captured the full spectrum of romantic emotion, with musical expressions that seemed to make abstract feelings tangible and immediate. These performances could evoke memories of earthly loves while transcending the limitations and sorrows that had affected mortal relationships, creating experiences of pure romantic joy that enhanced rather than diminished the blessed soul's appreciation for the love they had known during their earthly existence. The muses themselves occasionally graced Elysian gatherings, with performances that demonstrated the absolute pinnacle of artistic achievement possible within the cosmic order. Each muse brought her particular expertise to these divine concerts, with Calliope providing epic poetry that chronicled cosmic events, Euterpe offering musical compositions that explored the mathematical harmonies underlying universal structure, and terpsichore leading dances that expressed the fundamental rhythms governing celestial movements. When multiple muses performed together, their combined efforts created artistic experiences that approached the creative power of the gods themselves. These collaborative performances explored themes and concepts that individual artists, regardless of their skill level, could never adequately express alone. The harmonies they produced seemed to resonate with the fundamental frequencies that maintained cosmic order, creating music that was simultaneously entertainment and religious experience. Clio's historical recitations provided blessed souls with comprehensive understanding of the events and developments that had shaped the world during and after their mortal lifetimes. Her presentations combined factual accuracy with artistic expression, making even complex political and social developments accessible and engaging for audiences whose earthly experiences might not have prepared them to understand such matters. These educational performances ensured that Elysian inhabitants remained connected to the ongoing story of human civilization rather than becoming isolated in their blessed existence. Philosophical discourse within Elysium reached levels of sophistication and insight impossible during mortal existence, as the enhanced mental capabilities of blessed souls allowed them to pursue questions and concepts that had remained beyond their earthly understanding. The elimination of physical needs and distractions created ideal conditions for intellectual exploration, while the presence of individuals from different eras and backgrounds provided diverse perspectives that enriched every discussion and debate. Socratic dialogues flourished in this environment, with participants possessing the patience and mental acuity necessary to pursue complex questions through extended examination without becoming frustrated or distracted by external concerns. The blessed souls could engage in these philosophical investigations with complete focus and genuine commitment to discovering truth, rather than winning arguments or advancing personal agendas. Their enhanced understanding allowed them to grasp subtle distinctions and implications that had eluded them during their mortal philosophical pursuits. Ethical discussions explored questions of virtue, justice, and moral behaviour with participants who had demonstrated through their earthly lives that they possessed genuine commitment to these principles. Rather than theoretical debates about abstract concepts, these conversations drew upon the real experiences of individuals who had faced moral challenges and made choices that reflected their values. The resulting insights possessed practical wisdom that combined intellectual rigour with lived experience. Mathematical and scientific investigations proceeded without the limitations imposed by mortal lifespans and limited access to information. Blessed souls could pursue research projects that required centuries of observation and calculation, with their enhanced mental capabilities allowing them to process complex data and relationships that would have overwhelmed earthly scholars. Their investigations contributed to understanding of cosmic principles that governed both divine and mortal realms. Theological discussions explored the nature of divine authority and cosmic justice with participants who had personal experience of divine intervention in their lives. These conversations provided insights into the relationships between gods and mortals that went beyond speculation to include direct observation and interaction. The blessed souls could examine questions about divine motivation and cosmic purpose from perspectives that combined mortal experience with their current enhanced understanding. Literary creation flourished as blessed souls with poetic gifts found themselves able to compose works that captured experiences and emotions impossible to express during their earthly existence. Their enhanced understanding of language and meaning allowed them to create poetry and prose that explored themes and concepts that transcended mortal literary capabilities. These works served both as artistic expression and as means of sharing insights gained through their blessed existence. Artistic collaboration between individuals from different eras and cultural backgrounds produced creative works that synthesized diverse traditions and perspectives into new forms of expression. Painters, sculptors, musicians and writers could work together on projects that combined their various skills and cultural knowledge, creating artworks that reflected the universal human experiences that transcended specific historical periods and geographical locations. The lyrical verses of Pindar introduced a revolutionary concept that fundamentally altered Greek understanding of posthumous reward by describing the islands of the blessed as a separate realm reserved for souls who had achieved the ultimate purification through 3 successive lifetimes of virtue. This Theban poet, writing in the 5th century BC, departed dramatically from Homer's simpler vision of Elysium by creating a hierarchical afterlife system where even the blessed could aspire to greater rewards through continued moral excellence across multiple incarnations. According to Pindar's intricate theology, souls who reached Elysium through their first life of exceptional virtue faced a crucial choice upon their arrival in the blessed realm. They could remain content with their eternal reward, enjoying the perfect pleasures and companionship that characterized Elysian existence, or they could voluntarily return to mortal life to face new challenges and opportunities for spiritual development. This decision required tremendous courage, as returning to Earth meant abandoning guaranteed bliss to risk the uncertainties and sufferings inherent in mortal existence. The reincarnation process described by Pindar operated according to divine mechanisms that preserved the soul's accumulated wisdom, while placing it in circumstances that would test and strengthen its commitment to virtue. Unlike the random assignments that characterized ordinary reincarnation cycles, these voluntary returns were carefully orchestrated by divine authorities who ensured that each new life provided appropriate opportunities for continued moral growth. The returning souls retained subconscious memories of their previous achievements that influenced their choices without eliminating the genuine challenges necessary for further development. Souls who successfully completed their second lifetime of virtue and returned to Elysium faced the same choice again, with the additional knowledge that one more cycle of earthly existence could qualify them for the ultimate reward. This second return to mortal life typically involved even greater challenges, as the divine authorities recognized that souls approaching final purification required more severe tests to demonstrate their complete commitment to virtue. The temptations and obstacles they encountered were proportionally more difficult than those faced during their previous incarnations. The third and final return to earthly existence represented the ultimate test of spiritual development, with challenges specifically designed to verify that the soul had achieved complete mastery over every form of moral weakness that could compromise its virtue. These final incarnations often involved positions of great power or influence, where the temptations for corruption were strongest, or circumstances of extreme hardship where maintaining virtue required extraordinary strength and determination. Only souls who navigated these ultimate challenges without moral compromise qualified for translation to the Islands of the Blessed. The geographical separation between Elysium and the Islands of the Blessed reflected their different purposes within the cosmic reward system, with the islands positioned even further beyond the normal boundaries of earthly geography than the original Blessed Realm. While Elysium existed at the edges of the known world where ocean met the terrestrial sphere, the Islands of the Blessed floated in waters that belonged entirely to the divine realm, completely removed from any connection to mortal geography or natural law. The journey to these ultimate islands required divine transportation that surpassed even the miraculous translation that brought souls to Elysium. The thrice purified souls travelled not through geographical space but through spiritual dimensions that connected different levels of cosmic existence. This transportation process itself served as a final transformation that prepared them for existence in a realm where the very nature of reality operated according to principles that transcended even the enhanced physics of Elysium. The Islands of the Blessed is manifested as multiple separate land masses rather than a single continuous territory, with each island possessing distinct characteristics that reflected different aspects of ultimate perfection. Some islands specialized in intellectual pursuits, where the greatest philosophers and scholars could explore cosmic truths that remained hidden even from Elysian inhabitants. Others focused on artistic creation that approached the divine creative power itself, enabling their inhabitants to participate in the ongoing formation and beautification of cosmic reality. Certain islands served as gathering places for souls who had achieved greatness in specific fields during their earthly incarnations, creating communities of ultimate excellence where the greatest warriors, rulers, poets or other specialists could share their accumulated wisdom while continuing to develop their capabilities beyond any limitations that had constrained them during their mortal existences. These specialized communities fostered innovations and achievements that contributed to the overall enhancement of cosmic harmony and divine purpose. The golden towers that dominated the landscape of these blessed islands represented architectural achievements that surpassed even the magnificent structures found in Elysium, rising to heights that seemed to touch the very foundations of divine reality. These towers were constructed from gold that possessed properties unknown to earthly metallurgy, gleaming within a light that reflected the spiritual radiance of their inhabitants while serving practical purposes that supported the island's function as centres of ultimate achievement. Each tower served as both residence and workshop for souls pursuing specific aspects of cosmic understanding or creative expression. The interiors featured spaces that adapted automatically to support whatever activities their inhabitants chose to pursue, whether those involved complex mathematical calculations that explored the fundamental structures underlying reality, artistic projects that captured divine beauty in tangible form, or collaborative efforts that brought together multiple souls working toward common goals. The tower's golden construction incorporated metals that had been purified through divine processes that removed every imperfection and enhanced their natural properties beyond earthly possibility. The resulting material possessed strength that made the structures virtually indestructible while maintaining beauty that enhanced rather than overwhelmed their natural surroundings. The surfaces reflected light in patterns that created constantly changing displays of visual beauty that never became monotonous or tiresome. Windows within these towers provided views that extended beyond normal visual limitations, allowing inhabitants to observe cosmic events and divine activities throughout the universe, while maintaining the privacy and tranquility necessary for their pursuits. These supernatural viewing capabilities enabled the blessed souls to remain connected to ongoing cosmic developments while pursuing their individual projects and interests without distraction or interruption. The radiant flowers that bloomed throughout the islands of the blessed possessed qualities that surpassed even the divine flora found in Elysium, displaying colours and forms that existed nowhere else in cosmic reality. These supernatural blossoms grew according to patterns that reflected the spiritual achievements of the island's inhabitants, with new varieties appearing spontaneously to celebrate particularly significant accomplishments or insights achieved by the blessed souls. Unlike the flowers in Elysium that maintained constant beauty through eternal blooming, the island flowers underwent continuous transformation that created ever-changing displays of colour, form, and fragrance that reflected the ongoing spiritual development of their environment. Each blossom possessed individual characteristics that made it unique among all flowers that had ever existed, yet all shared common qualities that created overall harmony and aesthetic unity throughout the islands. The fragrances produced by these radiant flowers carried properties that enhanced the mental and spiritual capabilities of those who experienced them, providing subtle but significant support for the intellectual and creative pursuits that characterized life on the islands. Different varieties produced scents that promoted specific types of thinking or inspiration, with some encouraging mathematical precision, while others fostered artistic creativity or philosophical insight. The flowers' radiance contributed to the overall illumination of the islands, through light that seemed to emanate from within each blossom rather than reflecting external sources. This inner luminescence created lighting effects that adjusted automatically, to support whatever activities were taking place in each area, providing optimal conditions for reading, artistic work, or contemplation without creating glare or harsh contrast that might cause visual discomfort. The relationship between the Elysian Fields and the Blessed Isles within different mythological traditions created complex theological frameworks that attempted to reconcile various concepts of posthumous reward with evolving understanding of divine justice and cosmic purpose. Some traditions treated the two realms as completely separate destinations that served different categories of blessed souls, while others described them as connected levels within a hierarchical system of progressive spiritual advancement. Traditions that emphasized the separateness of these realms typically assigned them to different divine authorities who governed according to distinct principles and criteria. In these accounts, Elysium served souls who had achieved exceptional virtue during single lifetimes, while the Islands of the Blessed rewarded those who had demonstrated sustained excellence across multiple incarnations. The different governing authorities ensured that each realm maintained its distinct character and purpose without interference from the other. Alternative traditions described a more integrated system where the Islands of the Blessed represented the ultimate goal toward which all Elysian inhabitants could aspire through continued spiritual development. In these accounts, Elysium served as a training ground where blessed souls could prepare for the greater challenges and responsibilities that awaited them on the islands. This progressive model encouraged continued growth and achievement rather than passive enjoyment of earned rewards. Some mythological accounts suggested that movement between the realms could occur in both directions, with souls occasionally returning from the Islands of the Blessed to serve special purposes in Elysium, or even returning to mortal incarnation to accomplish specific divine missions. These traditions emphasized the ongoing nature of cosmic service and the responsibility that accompanied ultimate spiritual achievement. The unique features that distinguished the Islands of the Blessed from all other afterlife realms included supernatural phenomena that reflected the complete transcendence of natural law that characterized these ultimate destinations. Talking animals throughout the islands possessed intelligence and wisdom that surpassed many mortal philosophers, engaging in conversations that explored cosmic truths and divine purposes with sophistication that challenged even the enhanced understanding of the blessed souls. These articulate creatures served various functions within island society, acting as advisors, companions, and collaborators in the intellectual and creative pursuits that characterized life in this ultimate realm. Their perspectives, shaped by entirely different forms of consciousness than those experienced by souls who had lived as mortals, provided insights and understanding that enriched every aspect of island existence, while challenging conventional assumptions about consciousness and intelligence. The animal's ability to communicate extended beyond simple speech to include forms of expression that conveyed concepts and emotions impossible to capture through language alone. Their communications could directly share experiences, memories, and understanding in ways that created immediate comprehension and empathy between speaker and listener. This enhanced communication capability fostered relationships and collaborations that would have been impossible through normal linguistic interaction. Different species possessed specialized knowledge and capabilities that reflected their unique natures and experiences. Birds provided insights into cosmic movements and celestial events through their natural connection to aerial realms, while aquatic creatures shared understanding of the deep currents that flowed through divine reality. Land animals contributed wisdom, gained through their connections to the fundamental forces that shape terrestrial existence. Self-playing lyres throughout the islands created musical environments that supported and enhanced every activity pursued by their inhabitants, producing melodies and harmonies that seemed to emerge spontaneously from the cosmic forces that governed reality itself. These instruments possessed consciousness and creative capabilities that enabled them to compose original music that reflected current events, emotional states, or intellectual pursuits occurring within their vicinity. The lyre's musical output adapted continuously to provide optimal auditory environments for whatever activities were taking place nearby, whether those involved intense concentration requiring subtle background harmonies or celebratory gatherings that called for more elaborate musical displays. Their supernatural sensitivity allowed them to detect and respond to the emotional and intellectual needs of individuals and groups, providing musical support that enhanced rather than distracted from ongoing pursuits. The instruments created collaborative musical experiences by communicating with each other across distances, enabling island-wide concerts that brought together hundreds of self-playing lyres in synchronized performances that explored musical possibilities beyond the capabilities of any individual instrument. These massive musical collaborations celebrated significant achievements, marked important cosmic events, or simply provided entertainment that demonstrated the creative potential inherent in divine reality. The lyre's ability to compose original music meant that the islands enjoyed constantly expanding repertoires that never became repetitive or stale. Each instrument contributed its unique voice and perspective to the overall musical environment while participating in collaborative compositions that reflected the collective creativity and spiritual development of the island community. Trees bearing precious gems provided both practical resources and aesthetic enhancement throughout the islands, growing crystalline fruits that possess properties and capabilities far beyond normal gemstones. These supernatural crystals served various purposes in the advanced technologies and artistic projects pursued by the island's inhabitants, providing materials with properties that could support endeavours impossible in any other realm. The gem-bearing trees produced their crystalline fruit according to the needs and desires of the blessed souls, with different varieties of gems appearing to support specific projects or pursuits. Some crystals possessed properties that enhanced mental capabilities, enabling more sophisticated intellectual work, while others provided materials for artistic creations that captured and preserved divine beauty in permanent form. The harvesting of these precious gems required no labour or effort, as the trees willingly offered their fruit to those who needed it while immediately regenerating their supply to ensure constant availability. The gems themselves possessed perfect clarity and flawless structure that reflected their supernatural origin while displaying colours and optical properties that surpassed any earthly precious stones. Beyond their practical applications, the gem-bearing trees created visual displays of extraordinary beauty as sunlight and divine radiance interacted with their crystalline fruit to produce rainbow effects and light patterns that enhanced the overall aesthetic environment of the islands. These natural light shows provided constantly changing decorative elements that contributed to the sense of wonder and beauty that characterized every aspect of life in this ultimate realm. The ancient Sibylline oracles possessed an extraordinary ability to peer through the veils separating mortal existence from divine reality, delivering prophecies that revealed the intricate mechanisms governing heroic souls' passage to eternal bliss. These prophetic women, scattered across sacred sites throughout the Mediterranean world, spoke with voices that carried divine authority when describing the conditions necessary for achieving blessed immortality. Their utterances, often delivered in states of divine possession that transformed their normal consciousness, provided mortals with crucial insights into the cosmic processes that determined afterlife destinations. The most renowned of these oracles, the Cumean Sibyl, established her reputation through prophecies that detailed the specific requirements for Elysian admission with unprecedented clarity and precision. Her sacred cave, carved into volcanic rock near the Bay of Naples, served as a conduit between earthly and divine realms where mortals could receive authoritative guidance about their spiritual destinies. The physical environment of her oracle chamber enhanced her prophetic abilities through geological features that concentrated divine energy and facilitated communication with cosmic forces that governed posthumous rewards. During her prophetic trances, the Cumean Sibyl described heroic souls as possessing distinctive spiritual characteristics that distinguished them from ordinary mortals even before their deaths. These exceptional individuals carried within their essence a divine spark that resonated with cosmic harmonies governing the blessed realm, making their eventual translation to Elysium a natural consequence of their spiritual development rather than arbitrary divine favoritism. Her prophecies reveal that this inner radiance grew stronger through acts of genuine virtue and heroic achievement, creating increasingly powerful attractions to the divine forces that administered eternal rewards. The Sibyl's descriptions of the selection process emphasize that achieving blessed immortality required more than spectacular deeds or royal bloodlines, though these factors certainly influenced divine consideration. Her oracle spoke of cosmic scales that weighed the complete moral essence of each soul, measuring not just public achievements but private thoughts, secret motivations, and the fundamental character that shaped every choice and action throughout mortal existence. These divine assessments operated according to standards that transcended human understanding of justice and merit, incorporating factors that mortal observers might overlook or misinterpret. According to Sibylline prophecies, the cosmic forces responsible for Elysian selection paid particular attention to moments of moral crisis when individuals faced choices between personal benefit and ethical principle. Heroes who consistently chose virtue despite significant personal cost demonstrated the type of character that merited eternal reward, while those who compromised their principles for convenience or advantage revealed spiritual weaknesses that disqualified them from blessed status regardless of their other achievements. The Delphic oracle, speaking through Apollo's priestesses known as Pythias, provided complementary revelations about the divine mechanisms that governed posthumous rewards and punishments. These prophecies, delivered from the sacred chamber beneath Apollo's temple where intoxicating vapours induced prophetic states, reveal that the god of prophecy himself played a crucial role in evaluating mortal souls and recommending appropriate afterlife destinations to the cosmic tribunal that made final determinations. Apollo's involvement in this process reflected his unique position among the Olympian deities, as both a patron of heroic excellence and a divine judge whose understanding of mortal nature qualified him to assess the complex factors that determined spiritual worth. His prophecies through the Delphic oracle indicated that he maintained detailed records of every significant action performed by potential heroes, noting not just the deeds themselves, but the circumstances, motivations, and consequences that revealed their true moral significance. The Pythias described visions of celestial councils where Apollo presented cases for specific souls whose achievements and character qualified them for Elysian consideration. These divine deliberations involved careful examination of evidence that included not only the individual's personal record, but also the broader impact of their actions on human civilization and cosmic harmony. Heroes whose deeds contributed to divine purposes and cosmic order received more favourable consideration than those whose achievements served primarily personal or limited objectives. Delphic prophecies revealed that Apollo's recommendations carried significant weight in these cosmic deliberations due to his reputation for fairness and his deep understanding of both divine will and mortal nature. His advocacy for worthy souls often proved decisive in cases where other factors created ambiguity about appropriate afterlife destinations, demonstrating the importance of divine patronage in the complex process of spiritual evaluation and reward. The mystery religions that flourished throughout the Greek world developed sophisticated theological frameworks that promised initiates special knowledge about achieving blessed afterlife status through ritual purification and spiritual transformation. The Eleusinian mysteries, centered on the worship of Demeter and Persephone, offered participants direct experience of divine truths that prepared them for successful navigation of posthumous challenges while providing assurance of favourable treatment from underworld deities who controlled access to blessed realms. Initiation into the Eleusinian mysteries began with preliminary rituals that symbolically reenacted the cosmic drama of Persephone's abduction and eventual return from Hades, providing participants with intimate understanding of the forces that govern death and resurrection. These ceremonies, conducted in absolute secrecy that was maintained for over 1,000 years, revealed cosmic truths about the nature of divine justice and the mechanisms through which mortal souls could achieve spiritual transformation sufficient to merit eternal reward. The greater mysteries, celebrated annually at Eleusis during autumn when Persephone returned to the underworld, culminated in revelations that provided initiates with specific knowledge about posthumous navigation and divine recognition. These secret teachings included detailed instructions for approaching underworld deities, passwords for gaining passage through various afterlife regions, and techniques for demonstrating worthiness that would ensure favourable consideration from cosmic judges who determined eternal destinations. Eleusinian doctrine emphasized that achieving blessed immortality required more than moral excellence during earthly existence, though virtue remained essential for qualifying for divine consideration. The mystery teachings revealed that souls needed specific knowledge and preparation to successfully navigate the complex afterlife geography and present themselves appropriately to divine authorities who controlled access to Elysium and other blessed realms. This esoteric wisdom, available only to properly initiated individuals, provided crucial advantages in the cosmic processes that determined posthumous rewards. The Orphic Mysteries developed alternative theological frameworks that emphasized the soul's divine origin and its potential for purification through successive incarnations that gradually eliminated spiritual impurities accumulated through contact with material existence. Orphic teachings, attributed to the legendary musician, whose journey to Hades provided unique insights into afterlife realities, described complex cosmological systems that explained how souls could achieve the purification necessary for permanent escape from the cycle of death and rebirth. According to Orphic doctrine, human souls originated from divine essence that became trapped in material bodies through cosmic events that separated spiritual substance from its pure divine source. The goal of Orphic practice involved liberating the soul from this material contamination through ritual purification, ethical behavior, and mystical knowledge that enabled recognition of its true divine nature. Successful completion of this spiritual transformation qualified the soul for reunion with divine reality, rather than continued cycling through mortal incarnations. Orphic texts, written on gold tablets that were buried with initiates to serve as guides during their posthumous journeys, provided detailed instructions for navigating underworld geography and identifying appropriate paths toward blessed destinations. These funerary documents included specific phrases and responses that would demonstrate the deceased's initiation status to underworld guardians, while avoiding the pitfalls that trapped unprepared souls in less desirable afterlife regions. The Orphic vision of Elysium differed significantly from Homeric descriptions by emphasizing the realm's role as a temporary station rather than a final destination for purified souls. According to these teachings, even Elysian inhabitants could choose to return to mortal incarnation to complete their spiritual purification, with the ultimate goal being complete liberation from the cycle of death and rebirth through reunion with pure divine consciousness that transcended individual existence. Divine messengers and psychopomps played crucial roles in revealing the nature of blessed afterlife realms to mortals who received special visions or dreams that provided glimpses of paradisiacal existence. Hermes, in his capacity as guide of souls and divine herald, occasionally granted selected individuals direct experience of Elysian reality through dream visions that demonstrated the rewards awaiting virtuous souls while encouraging continued moral excellence during earthly existence. These divine revelations typically occurred during periods of spiritual crisis when individuals faced difficult moral choices or struggled with questions about the meaning and purpose of virtuous behavior in a world that often seemed to reward corruption and selfishness. Hermes' interventions provided reassurance that cosmic justice operated according to principles that transcended immediate earthly consequences, encouraging persistence in virtue despite apparent disadvantages or lack of immediate reward. The dream visions granted by Hermes revealed Elysium as a realm where every form of earthly suffering and limitation had been eliminated while preserving and enhancing the positive aspects of mortal existence. Recipients of these revelations experienced the perfect climate, abundant food, harmonious society, and meaningful activities that characterized blessed existence, gaining personal knowledge that strengthened their commitment to achieving the virtue necessary for eventual admission to this paradisiacal realm. Hermes' role as psychopomp enabled him to provide accurate information about the afterlife journey and the criteria used by divine authorities to determine appropriate destinations for different souls. His guidance helped mortals understand the cosmic significance of their choices and actions, while preparing them for the posthumous challenges they would face, regardless of their eventual afterlife destination. Iris, the rainbow goddess who served as Zeus's messenger, occasionally delivered divine communications that revealed specific aspects of Elysian existence to mortals whose achievements or potential qualified them for such privileged information. Her appearances, marked by brilliant displays of colour that announced her divine nature, provided authoritative revelations about the cosmic processes governing posthumous rewards, while demonstrating divine attention to exceptional mortal accomplishments. The messages delivered by Iris often addressed questions about divine justice and the apparent randomness of earthly rewards and punishments, explaining how cosmic accounting systems operated according to principles that ensured ultimate fairness despite temporary inequities in mortal experience. Her revelations provided assurance that virtuous behaviour would receive appropriate recognition and reward, even when earthly circumstances seemed to contradict this principle. Iris's communications frequently included specific predictions about the posthumous destinies of particular individuals whose actions had attracted divine attention, providing confirmation that their achievements qualified them for blessed status, while encouraging continued excellence during their remaining earthly existence. These prophetic announcements served both to honour exceptional virtue and to inspire others who witnessed divine recognition of moral excellence. The goddess's rainbow appearances symbolised the connection between earthly and divine realms that enabled communication about afterlife realities, with the spectrum of colours representing the various levels of posthumous existence available to different categories of souls. Her visual manifestations provided tangible evidence of divine interest in mortal affairs, while demonstrating the reality of cosmic systems that govern spiritual rewards and punishments. Morpheus, the divine personification of dreams, granted selected mortals visionary experiences that provided detailed glimpses of Elysian existence and the activities that occupied blessed souls in their eternal reward. These dream revelations, distinguished from ordinary nocturnal visions by their extraordinary clarity and lasting impact, enabled recipients to experience paradisiacal reality with all their senses while retaining complete memory of the encounter upon awakening. The dreams orchestrated by Morpheus revealed Elysium as a realm of perfect social harmony, where heroes from different eras and cultures interacted without the conflicts and prejudices that divided mortal societies. Recipients witnessed conversations between legendary figures whose earthly lives had been separated by centuries, observing how their shared commitment to virtue created bonds that transcended temporal and cultural differences. These visionary experiences demonstrated the intellectual and artistic pursuits that provided meaningful occupation for blessed souls, showing how enhanced capabilities enabled achievements impossible during mortal existence. Dreamers observed divine bards creating epic poems that captured cosmic truths, philosophers exploring questions that had puzzled earthly thinkers for generations, and artists producing works that reflected divine beauty with unprecedented accuracy and power. Morpheus's dream revelations also provided insights into the governance systems that maintained order and harmony within Elysian society, showing how divine judges like Rhadamanthus administered justice with perfect fairness while ensuring that individual freedom and collective welfare remained in optimal balance. These visions demonstrated that blessed existence involved meaningful responsibility and continued growth rather than passive enjoyment of earned rewards. The prophetic traditions surrounding afterlife revelations included accounts of mortals who received direct divine communications during near-death experiences that provided temporary access to posthumous realms before their eventual return to earthly existence. These individuals, revived through divine intervention or natural recovery, brought back detailed descriptions of afterlife geography and the criteria governing access to different posthumous destinations. Their testimonies provided corroborating evidence for the theological frameworks developed by mystery religions and oracular traditions, confirming that blessed realms existed as described in religious teachings, while adding personal details that enhanced understanding of paradisiacal existence. These first-hand accounts carried particular authority because they came from individuals who had actually experienced posthumous reality rather than receiving second-hand revelations through prophetic intermediaries. Near-death visionaries described encounters with divine judges who evaluated their moral records with supernatural thoroughness, examining not just major deeds but every thought, word, and action that revealed character and motivation. These evaluation processes operated with perfect fairness that took into account circumstances, opportunities, and limitations that had affected each individual's ability to achieve virtue during their earthly existence. The returned souls reported that divine authorities possessed complete knowledge of mortal psychology and social conditions that enabled them to assess spiritual worth with accuracy impossible for earthly judges. Their evaluations considered factors like inherited tendencies, environmental influences, and available opportunities while maintaining absolute standards of virtue that ensured only genuinely worthy souls received blessed rewards. Human seers and prophets throughout the Greek world developed reputations for receiving divine visions that revealed specific details about Elysian existence and the cosmic processes governing posthumous rewards. These gifted individuals, often marked by unusual circumstances of birth or early manifestations of supernatural abilities, served as intermediaries between divine and mortal realms who could communicate otherworldly knowledge to ordinary humans seeking guidance about spiritual matters. The most respected of these seers underwent rigorous training that prepared them to receive and interpret divine communications accurately while avoiding the madness that often affected individuals exposed to cosmic truths beyond normal human comprehension. Their education included techniques for achieving the altered states of consciousness necessary for divine contact, while maintaining sufficient mental stability to function effectively as prophetic intermediaries. These human oracles provided accessible sources of information about afterlife realities for individuals who lacked direct access to major oracular sites or mystery religion initiations. Their prophecies addressed practical questions about achieving virtue, avoiding spiritual pitfalls, and preparing for posthumous evaluation, while offering reassurance that cosmic justice operated according to comprehensible principles that rewarded genuine moral excellence. The consistency of revelations received by different prophetic sources across various regions and time periods provided evidence that these communications originated from genuine divine sources rather than human imagination or wishful thinking. The theological frameworks revealed through multiple independent channels showed remarkable agreement about fundamental principles governing posthumous rewards, despite variations in specific details that reflected different cultural contexts and prophetic traditions. The prophetic traditions surrounding afterlife revelations included accounts of mortals who received direct divine communications during near-death experiences that provided temporary access to posthumous realms before their eventual return to earthly existence. These individuals, revived through divine intervention or natural recovery, brought back detailed descriptions of afterlife geography and the criteria governing access to different posthumous destinations. Their testimonies provided corroborating evidence for the theological frameworks developed by mystery religions and oracular traditions, confirming that blessed realms existed as described in religious teachings, while adding personal details that enhanced understanding of paradisiacal existence. The phenomenon of divine translation represented perhaps the most dramatic form of passage between mortal existence and Elysian paradise, involving the complete transformation of living beings from their earthly state to blessed immortality without experiencing conventional death. This extraordinary process required direct divine intervention that altered the fundamental nature of mortal bodies and souls, enabling them to survive and thrive in realms where ordinary human physiology would prove inadequate. The translation experience differed markedly from resurrection, which restored life to those who had already died, by preserving continuous consciousness throughout the transformation while eliminating mortality's inherent limitations. Ganymede's translation exemplified the most dramatic form of this divine intervention, occurring when Zeus transformed himself into an eagle to carry the young Trojan prince directly from Mount Ida to Olympus. The physical transformation of the king of gods demonstrated the extraordinary measures divine beings would undertake to preserve mortals whose beauty, character, or potential warranted such intervention. The eagle form provided Zeus with the necessary strength and flight capability to transport a living human across the vast distances separating earthly and divine realms, while maintaining the speed required to complete the journey before mortal physiology succumbed to the stresses of interdimensional travel. The actual translation process involved more than simple transportation, requiring fundamental alterations to Ganymede's physical and spiritual nature that enabled him to survive in divine environments where mortal bodies would immediately perish. Zeus's divine power transformed the youth's cellular structure, enhancing his resilience and longevity, while preserving the essential characteristics that had originally attracted divine attention. The transformation process maintained Ganymede's human consciousness and personality, while granting him capabilities necessary for functioning effectively in his new role as cupbearer to the gods. Divine witnesses to Ganymede's translation describe the event as producing brilliant flashes of light that mark the moment when mortal nature gave way to enhanced existence capable of surviving divine proximity. The transformation created visible changes in the youth's appearance that reflected his new status, with his skin acquiring a subtle luminescence that indicated his altered nature while maintaining the physical beauty that had initially captured Zeus's interest. His enhanced form possessed strength and endurance that far exceeded human limitations, while retaining the grace and agility that made him suitable for serving divine banquets. Heracles' translation followed a different pattern that involved voluntary acceptance of extreme suffering as the price for achieving divine status, demonstrating that even the most favoured mortals might need to endure tremendous trials before qualifying for blessed immortality. His decision to wear the poisoned robe sent by Deianira created agony so intense that death seemed preferable to continued existence. Yet his divine heritage provided him with the resilience necessary to survive long enough for the transformation process to begin. The funeral pyre on Mount Oeta served as the catalyst for Heracles' translation rather than his destruction, with the flames consuming his mortal elements while liberating the divine essence inherited from his father Zeus. Divine observers reported that the fire burned with supernatural intensity that far exceeded ordinary combustion, creating heat that could destroy mortal flesh, while purifying and concentrating the heroic soul for its transition to immortal existence. The process required precise divine timing to ensure that the transformation occurred at the optimal moment when physical suffering had reached its peak, without completely destroying the essential elements needed for continued existence. Zeus's intervention at the crucial moment involved sending divine fire that merged with the earthly flames to complete Heracles' transformation, creating energies that could restructure matter at the fundamental level while preserving consciousness and identity throughout the process. The combined fires produced effects that transcended normal physics, enabling the simultaneous destruction and recreation that characterized divine translation. Witnesses described seeing Heracles' mortal form consumed by flames while simultaneously observing his divine essence ascending toward Olympus in a blaze of light that outshone the funeral pyre itself. The completed translation resulted in Heracles acquiring physical capabilities that surpassed even his legendary mortal strength, while retaining the heroic character and determination that had defined his earthly achievements. His new divine form possessed unlimited endurance that eliminated the fatigue and pain that had plagued his mortal existence, while his enhanced strength enabled feats that would have been impossible even for his superhuman mortal body. The transformation also granted him access to divine knowledge and understanding that provided new perspectives on the cosmic significance of his earthly labours. Living mortals who successfully visited Elysium and returned to earthly existence provided unique insights into the nature of paradisiacal existence, while demonstrating that passage between realms could occur in both directions under appropriate circumstances. These extraordinary journeys required special divine favour or exceptional circumstances that temporarily suspended the normal barriers separating mortal and blessed realms, enabling brief experiences of eternal paradise that profoundly influenced the visitors' subsequent earthly lives. Orpheus's descent to Hades in pursuit of Eurydice established the most famous precedent for mortal penetration of afterlife realms, though his journey focused on the underworld proper, rather than the blessed regions reserved for virtuous souls. His divine musical abilities, inherited through his parentage by the muse Calliope and enhanced by Apollo's patronage, provided him with capabilities that could influence even underworld deities who normally showed no mercy to mortal supplicants. The lyre Apollo had given him produced melodies of such extraordinary beauty that they could soften the hardest hearts and overcome the most implacable resistance. The power of Orpheus's music manifested dramatically during his underworld journey, as his melodies temporarily suspended the eternal punishments inflicted on various condemned souls, providing them with brief respite from their torments while demonstrating the extraordinary nature of his artistic abilities. Tantalus found temporary relief from his eternal hunger and thirst, as the music created a momentary suspension of his curse, while Sisyphus's boulder remained stationary on the mountainside as long as the divine melodies continued. These effects proved that Orpheus possessed capabilities that could influence fundamental cosmic forces governing posthumous justice and punishment. Persephone's emotional response to Orpheus's musical plea revealed the depth of feeling that divine beings could experience when confronted with genuine artistic excellence combined with profound human emotion. Her tears, described by witnesses as the first sign of mercy ever displayed by the Queen of the Underworld, demonstrated that even deities who administered cosmic justice could be moved by exceptional demonstrations of love and artistic beauty. Her intervention with Hades on Orpheus's behalf showed how divine compassion could temporarily override established cosmic laws when circumstances warranted such intervention. Hades' unprecedented decision to release Eurydice reflected recognition that Orpheus's love and musical abilities represented achievements worthy of divine consideration, even though his request challenged fundamental principles governing death and resurrection. The conditions attached to Eurydice's release, that Orpheus must not look back at her during their ascent to the living world, created a test that evaluated the musician's faith and self-control while providing cosmic authorities with justification for their extraordinary decision to bend established rules. The tragic failure of Orpheus's mission, when he turned to look at Eurydice just before reaching the surface, demonstrated the precise nature of divine justice and the importance of complete compliance with cosmic requirements. His momentary lapse of faith, understandable though it was given the circumstances, proved sufficient to void the agreement and return Eurydice to the underworld permanently. This outcome illustrated that divine mercy, while genuine, operated according to exact standards that required perfect adherence to specified conditions. Other heroes achieved temporary access to blessed realms through divine favour or special circumstances that provided them with brief glimpses of paradisiacal existence before requiring their return to mortal responsibilities. Theseus's journey to the underworld with Pirithous represented an attempt to gain unauthorized access to divine realms that resulted in temporary imprisonment until Heracles' intervention secured their release. Their experience demonstrated both the dangers of presumptuous behaviour toward divine authority and the possibility of redemption through heroic intervention by properly qualified individuals. The circumstances of Theseus and Pirithous' underworld imprisonment revealed the sophisticated security measures that protected afterlife realms from unauthorized intrusion, while providing opportunities for redemption when appropriate divine intervention occurred. The chairs of forgetfulness that trapped them created a form of punishment that erased memory and identity while preserving physical existence, demonstrating cosmic justice's ability to craft penalties that precisely match the nature of specific offences. Heracles' successful rescue of Theseus, while being unable to free Pirithous, illustrated the complex factors that determined which interventions divine authorities would permit and which they would prevent. Theseus's generally heroic character and previous service to cosmic order apparently qualified him for rescue, while Pirithous' more questionable motivations and actions resulted in his permanent retention in underworld custody. This selective mercy demonstrated that divine justice operated according to sophisticated evaluations of individual character and circumstances, rather than applying uniform standards to all offenders. The process of temporary exile from paradise represented one of the most complex aspects of divine justice, involving circumstances where souls who had legitimately earned blessed status subsequently committed acts that required punishment or correction. These situations created theological difficulties because they challenged the assumption that Elysian admission represented permanent security from divine displeasure, while demonstrating that even blessed souls remained subject to cosmic moral standards that governed all conscious beings. The exile of certain blessed souls typically resulted from acts of hubris or presumption that violated the cosmic hierarchy governing relationships between mortal and divine beings. Heroes who achieved Elysian status sometimes developed attitudes of entitlement or superiority that led them to challenge divine authority or attempt to exceed the limitations appropriate to their enhanced but still non-divine nature. These transgressions required correction that balanced respect for their previous achievements with enforcement of cosmic order. Temporary exile usually involved return to mortal existence under conditions that provided opportunities for redemption, while ensuring that the punishment matched the severity of the offence. Exiled souls retained memories of their blessed existence that created powerful incentives for virtuous behaviour during their earthly punishment, while their enhanced understanding of cosmic justice helped them recognise the fairness of their circumstances and work toward eventual restoration of their privileged status. The possibility of redemption and return to blessed status provided hope that encouraged proper behaviour during exile, while demonstrating divine mercy's availability to those who genuinely repented their transgressions. The requirements for restoration typically involve specific acts of service or virtue that proved the exiled soul had learned from their mistakes and recommitted themselves to the principles that had originally qualified them for blessed existence. Divine intervention played crucial roles in facilitating passage between mortal and blessed realms, whether through translation, temporary visitation, or restoration from exile. The gods possessed unique capabilities for altering fundamental cosmic laws that normally prevented such transitions, but they exercised these powers according to principles that balanced individual circumstances with broader cosmic requirements for maintaining order and justice throughout the universe. The mechanisms of divine intervention varied depending on specific circumstances and the nature of the assistance required, ranging from direct physical transportation across cosmic boundaries to subtle influences that created opportunities for souls to achieve their own transitions through enhanced capabilities or favourable circumstances. The gods typically preferred methods that preserved individual agency and responsibility while providing necessary support for achieving outcomes that served both personal and cosmic welfare. Zeus's role as ultimate arbiter of divine intervention ensured that all such activities remained consistent with overall cosmic purposes while respecting the legitimate authority of other divine beings who administered specific aspects of afterlife governance. His decisions regarding translation, visitation, or restoration reflected comprehensive understanding of cosmic justice that balanced competing interests and requirements while maintaining the fundamental principles that governed relationships between mortal and divine realms. The intervention process often involved consultation among multiple divine authorities who possessed relevant expertise or jurisdiction over specific aspects of the proposed intervention. These cosmic deliberations ensured that all relevant factors received proper consideration, while preventing conflicts between different divine agencies that might compromise the effectiveness or appropriateness of the intended assistance. Divine messengers and intermediaries frequently served as the actual agents of intervention, carrying out decisions made by higher authorities while adapting general instructions to specific circumstances that required flexibility and judgment. Hermes' role as psychopomp made him particularly valuable for interventions involving passage between different cosmic realms, while other deities contributed specialized capabilities that supported various types of assistance for souls seeking enhanced spiritual status or restoration from exile. The complex theological framework surrounding Elysium exposed fundamental contradictions within Greek religious thought that would perplex philosophers and theologians for centuries. The most glaring tension emerged between the concept of merit-based immortality and the arbitrary nature of divine favour that seemed to govern actual admission to the blessed realm. While Greek culture celebrated virtue, justice, and heroic achievement as the highest human aspirations, the mythological accounts of Elysian selection revealed a system where family connections to the gods often mattered more than moral excellence or spectacular deeds. Menelaus's prophesied translation to Elysium based solely on his marriage to Helen, daughter of Zeus, created a theological crisis that challenged core assumptions about divine justice. His qualifications for eternal bliss rested entirely on fortunate matrimonial circumstances, rather than exceptional virtue, military prowess, or service to humanity. This divine favoritism suggested that cosmic justice operated according to nepotistic principles that contradicted the moral standards Greeks expected their earthly rulers and institutions to uphold. The implication that divine bloodline connections could supersede personal merit in determining eternal rewards undermined confidence in cosmic fairness and raised disturbing questions about whether virtue truly mattered in the ultimate accounting of human worth. The arbitrary nature of divine selection became even more problematic when contrasted with the genuine achievements of heroes who failed to receive Elysian admission despite lives of extraordinary service and moral excellence. Ajax the Greater's exclusion from blessed immortality, despite his crucial role in defending the Greek forces during the Trojan War's most desperate moments, illustrated how divine politics and personal grudges could override considerations of merit and achievement. His steadfast courage in protecting his comrades and his willingness to accept dangerous assignments that other heroes avoided demonstrated exactly the type of selfless heroism that should have warranted divine recognition and reward. Similarly, the fate of numerous other heroes who displayed exceptional virtue yet received no promise of blessed afterlife revealed the inconsistent application of divine justice that plagued the entire system. Local kings who governed with perfect fairness, warriors who died protecting innocent civilians, and individuals who sacrificed personal welfare for collective good often faced the same grim descent to Hades as murderers, tyrants, and cowards. This apparent randomness in divine reward distribution suggested that cosmic justice operated according to principles that bore little resemblance to human concepts of fairness and moral accountability. The philosophical implications of this arbitrary selection process extended beyond individual cases to encompass broader questions about the nature of divine authority and the relationship between power and justice in cosmic governance. If the gods could grant eternal bliss based on personal whim rather than objective merit, then their authority rested on raw power rather than moral legitimacy. This realization threatened the entire foundation of Greek religious thought, which assumed that divine beings possessed superior wisdom and moral understanding that qualified them to govern cosmic affairs and judge human behavior. The tension between merit and favoritism in Elysian selection reflected deeper contradictions within Greek aristocratic culture that shaped the development of these mythological concepts. The Blessed Realm's characteristics and admission criteria mirrored the values and assumptions of the warrior elite who dominated early Greek society, creating an afterlife system that reinforced earthly social hierarchies rather than transcending them. The emphasis on heroic achievement, divine bloodlines, and royal status in determining Elysian worthiness revealed how religious concepts could serve to legitimize existing power structures by projecting them onto cosmic scales. The idealization of heroic culture within Elysian mythology reflected aristocratic values that celebrated individual excellence, martial prowess, and competitive achievement as the highest expressions of human potential. The Blessed Realm served as the ultimate prize in a cosmic competition where heroes strove to distinguish themselves through spectacular deeds that would attract divine attention and earn eternal recognition. This competitive framework encouraged the pursuit of glory and honour that drove heroic behaviour, while creating a system where cosmic rewards went to those who could achieve the most dramatic and visible forms of excellence. The physical characteristics of Elysium itself reinforced aristocratic ideals through landscapes and activities that reflected the leisure pursuits and aesthetic preferences of the warrior elite. The eternal banquets, athletic competitions, and musical performances that occupied blessed souls represented the type of refined pleasures that wealthy aristocrats enjoyed during their earthly lives, elevated to supernatural perfection, but maintaining their essential character as elite entertainments. The golden meadows, crystal streams, and precious metal architecture created environments that surpassed earthly luxury, while preserving the fundamental assumption that paradise should provide enhanced versions of aristocratic comfort and beauty. The governance structure of Elysium under Rhadamanthus and other divine judges reflected aristocratic political ideals that emphasized the rule of exceptional individuals whose superior character and divine connections qualified them for authority over lesser beings. The perfect justice administered in the Blessed Realm represented the type of governance that aristocratic ideology claimed to provide, where wise and virtuous rulers made decisions based on absolute moral principles rather than personal interest or popular pressure. This idealized political system served as both a model for earthly governance and a justification for aristocratic privilege based on claims of moral and intellectual superiority. The evolution of Elysian concepts throughout Greek cultural development revealed changing attitudes toward justice, merit, and the relationship between earthly achievement and cosmic reward that reflected broader social and intellectual transformations. The simple Homeric vision of divine translation for favoured individuals gradually gave way to more sophisticated theological frameworks that attempted to reconcile divine favoritism with emerging concepts of universal justice and moral accountability that developed through philosophical inquiry and democratic political experimentation. Pindar's introduction of the Islands of the Blessed as a reward for souls who achieved virtue through multiple incarnations represented an attempt to create a more meritocratic afterlife system that provided cosmic rewards based on sustained moral excellence rather than single lifetime achievements or fortunate divine connections. This hierarchical framework suggested that even blessed souls could continue growing spiritually and earning greater rewards through continued demonstration of virtue, creating a cosmic progression system that operated according to comprehensible moral principles rather than arbitrary divine preference. The mystery religions that flourished during the classical period offered alternative pathways to blessed afterlife status that emphasized ritual purification, esoteric knowledge, and spiritual transformation rather than heroic achievement or divine bloodlines. These religious movements attempted to democratize access to eternal bliss by providing initiation procedures that could elevate ordinary individuals to blessed status through proper preparation and commitment to spiritual development. The Eleusinian and Orphic mysteries promised their adherents special knowledge and purification that would ensure favourable treatment from underworld deities regardless of their social status or public achievements. The philosophical schools that emerged during the Hellenistic period developed increasingly sophisticated analyses of Elysian concepts that attempted to reconcile mythological traditions with rational inquiry into the nature of justice, virtue, and cosmic order. Stoic philosophers argued that true blessedness resulted from inner virtue and wisdom rather than external rewards, suggesting that the mythological paradise represented symbolic rather than literal truth about the ultimate consequences of moral excellence. Epicurean thinkers challenged the entire framework of posthumous rewards and punishments, arguing that consciousness ended with death and that ethical behaviour should be motivated by earthly rather than cosmic considerations. Platonic philosophy offered perhaps the most influential reinterpretation of Elysian concepts through its vision of eternal forms and the soul's journey toward ultimate truth and beauty. Plato's dialogues transformed the crude mythological geography of blessed realms into sophisticated metaphysical frameworks that described the soul's progression toward perfect knowledge and virtue through multiple incarnations and spiritual purification. His vision of cosmic justice operated according to rational principles that ensured appropriate rewards and punishments based on objective moral criteria rather than divine favoritism or arbitrary selection. The enduring appeal of paradise myths throughout human culture reflected fundamental psychological and spiritual needs that transcended specific religious or cultural contexts while addressing universal questions about justice, mortality, and the meaning of virtue. The human capacity to imagine perfect realms where suffering, injustice, and limitation no longer existed provided psychological compensation for the inevitable disappointments and tragedies of earthly existence while encouraging continued commitment to moral principles despite immediate disadvantages or lack of visible reward. Paradise myths served crucial social functions by providing ultimate sanctions for moral behaviour that extended beyond earthly consequences and human enforcement mechanisms. The promise of eternal reward for virtue and eternal punishment for vice created incentive structures that supported social cooperation and ethical conduct even when immediate circumstances favoured selfish or destructive behaviour. These mythological frameworks helped maintain social cohesion by assuring individuals that cosmic justice would ultimately prevail despite temporary inequities and injustices in human affairs. The psychological appeal of paradise concepts reflected deep human needs for meaning, purpose, and ultimate justice that could not be satisfied through purely material or temporal considerations. The vision of blessed realms where virtue received appropriate recognition and reward provided hope that sustained individuals through periods of suffering, disappointment, and moral challenge while affirming the ultimate significance of ethical choices and character development. These mythological promises addressed existential anxieties about death, meaninglessness, and moral relativism by asserting the reality of cosmic order and divine justice that transcended human limitations and understanding. The role of paradise myths in addressing fundamental questions about mortality reveal their function as sophisticated psychological and philosophical tools for confronting the reality of death and the apparent finitude of human existence. The vision of blessed immortality provided conceptual frameworks for imagining consciousness continuing beyond bodily death, while preserving personal identity, relationships, and achievements that gave meaning to earthly life. These mythological solutions to the problem of mortality offered alternatives to the despair and nihilism that might otherwise result from contemplating personal extinction and the apparent meaninglessness of finite existence. The mythological significance of Elysium extended beyond its function as a reward system to encompass its role as a cultural repository for Greek ideals about human excellence, divine justice, and cosmic order. The Blessed Realm served as a crystallization of cultural values that defined what Greeks considered most worthy of preservation and celebration, creating a mythological standard against which earthly achievements and institutions could be measured. The characteristics attributed to Elysian existence reflected collective aspirations about what human life could become when freed from the limitations and corruptions that plagued mortal society. The influence of Elysian concepts on later religious and philosophical developments demonstrated their enduring power as organizing principles for thinking about ultimate questions of meaning, value, and cosmic purpose. The Christian concept of heaven, the Islamic vision of paradise, and numerous other religious traditions showed clear influences from Greek mythological frameworks while adapting them to different theological and cultural contexts. These later developments preserved essential elements of the Elysian vision, while modifying specific details to align with different religious and philosophical assumptions about divine nature, human destiny, and cosmic justice. The philosophical legacy of Elysian mythology continued to influence Western thought through its role in establishing conceptual frameworks for discussing ultimate questions about justice, virtue, and the relationship between earthly achievement and cosmic significance. The tensions and contradictions inherent in Greek paradise myths provided starting points for sophisticated philosophical investigations that continue to engage contemporary thinkers grappling with similar questions about meaning, morality, and human destiny in secular, as well as religious contexts. The enduring fascination with paradise myths in literature, art, and popular culture revealed their continued relevance as expressions of fundamental human aspirations and anxieties that transcend specific historical periods or cultural contexts. The vision of perfect realms where justice prevails, suffering ends, and human potential achieves full realization continues to inspire creative works and philosophical speculation that attempt to imagine alternatives to the limitations and disappointments of ordinary existence, while providing hope for ultimate meaning and purpose in human life. Thus, the mythological tradition of Elysium stands as one of humanity's most enduring attempts to reconcile the harsh realities of mortal existence with deeper aspirations for justice, meaning, and transcendence. Despite its internal contradictions and cultural limitations, this ancient vision of blessed immortality continues to offer insights into fundamental questions about virtue, cosmic justice, and human destiny that remain as relevant today as they were to the ancient Greeks, who first imagined these golden meadows where heroes feast eternally under perfect skies, forever freed from the sorrows and limitations that define our earthly journey.